everybody. Thanks so much. I believe in all of you, and I am confident we can do it. Thank you very much. I have just come from Buckingham Palace, where I have accepted His Majesty the King's all of you, and I am confident we can do it. Thank you very much. I have just come from Buckingham Palace, where I have accepted His Majesty the King's invitation to form a government. I know people at home are fed up with politics. I hear you, and I want to be honest with you. We have not been good enough, and we need to be better. We will be.
This man has no mandate whatsoever. He didn't stand on the 2024 general election manifesto. You cannot make the biggest change in British politics in 40 years without a mandate from the British people, and it will be only decent, right and proper to call a general election on that issue and to do it now.
Our fifth Prime Minister in 4 years. Blimey. And, well, look, we want him to succeed. But will this one be any different? Andy Burnham, the new head honcho, the speed this all happened, I know this is a well-trodden debate already, is actually breathtaking. 1 minute he was Mayor of Greater Manchester. What, a month and a bit ago he wasn't even an MP. The next he's holding keys to number 10 without the country ever really having a chance to scrutinise him in a prospective prime ministerial nothing at all. We really know very little.
I think Burnham has to walk a fine line. I think that's probably what's going on, because if he were to sweep into Downing Street and say, I'm going to change everything, I'm going to fix everything, I'm going to do things completely differently to Starmer, then people would say, hold on, mate, we need a general election in that case, because no one voted for that. No one voted for you to be Prime Minister. You weren't standing in the 2024 general election. We've never seen your manifesto. Who the hell are you? That's what people would be asking.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
A very, very good morning. Welcome to the show. It's 3 minutes past 10 o'clock. This is Talk. We are the home of common sense. Wow, an awful lot to talk about today. Love to hear your thoughts on, well, let's face it, there are two big topics. I do get a load of messages from people on days like this going, please don't talk about Harry and Meghan. I do my best not to. My God, I really do my best to not talk about Harry and Meghan. But the shocking news in The Sun and The Telegraph last night was that they are returning to Britain. I'm sorry, this is a big story. This is a fun story. Remigration, I think we're going to call it, are we? After Megxit. Yeah, but Harry and Meghan are returning. I want to hear your thoughts on that. I have to say, the guest in the studio right now is already hanging his head in absolute horror. But also, I want to hear your thoughts on, yes, that other massive story that has exploded, which is the Home Office publishing a booklet for asylum seekers. Legal migrants is the words they were looking for. Published it yesterday, 7-page booklet, basically advising them, well, about the rules and expectations if they live here in Britain, which apparently they do now, because they can just get on a boat and pay to come here. And not much we can do about that, apparently. But we certainly don't send them home, even if they do rape. Case in the news only yesterday of someone who had actually raped, being convicted of it. But you know what? You can still stay here because, you know, human rights. But astonishingly, this booklet, I mean, it is quite mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. Could you not rape, even within marriage? Could you not have sex with 16-year-olds? This is a bad thing. No sexual harassment, no touching. Domestic abuse, yeah, please don't beat your wives. Could you not? And no controlling behaviour, because I know this is a mind-blowing idea. In this country, women are equal with men, and we can sodding well go out to work or go to university, or we can see people we want to do without needing the permission of our husband, our father, or, I don't know, our brother, or, I don't know, eldest son, as is the case in some countries. The fact that this booklet has to be published, I mean, it tells us everything, does it not? And what it tells us very, very clearly is that the Home Office knows that an awful lot of the men who are arriving in this country are a very big problem, particularly for women and girls. And yet, they continue to bring them in, they continue to let them walk our streets, and they continue to allow them not to be deported from the country, despite clearly knowing the problem. And here's the real kicker. This booklet is in English, not yet been translated into any of the languages of the countries where we have seen the largest spate of sexual assaults and violence from. Some of those countries which we've seen huge number of asylum seekers from, Syria, Sudan, Afghanistan and others. So let's hope they've got really good English reading skills, that they'll actually get that message. And maybe they won't be able to use that excuse before judges, which they have done in cases in the past. Like, didn't really understand the concept of rape because, she's not covered up. She's basically a hoe and she's asking for it, isn't she? Because that, I'm afraid, is what an awful lot of men in an awful lot of countries think. I want to hear your thoughts. What is your reaction to that extraordinary booklet? What does that tell us, crucially, and what will it change? I want to hear your thoughts. Give us a call on that. And yes, Harry and Meghan's return to the UK. Should the royal family welcome her with open arms? The prodigal son returns, tail between his legs. Let's be honest, that's what's happened. If it was all going so well in the States, he wouldn't be back, and neither would Meghan. I want to hear your thoughts on all of that. Everything and everything under the sun, you can always call, but those are my two key topics today. Give us a call, 0344 499 1000 is the number to get in touch. Text the word talk and your message to 87222. Get in touch with us on X at talkTV. Calls to charge of the national rate and text cost £1 standard network rate message. Delighted to say that joining me today is Philip Ingram, MBE, former senior military intelligence officer, and I know you are desperately keen, are you not, to be talking about Harry and Meghan because it's your favourite topic.
Why are we talking about them?
I hate to tell you, they are actually quite newsworthy. This is the really frustrating thing about them. It kills me as well, I know.
It's clickbait, and therefore, what does the press in the UK do? It criticises them for wanting to have their own clickbait, yet we enable the clickbait. It's a self-fulfilling circle.
Her publishing, her doing a Netflix series, her making some jam. I mean, that's clickbait, or her whinging or moaning about, oh, no one listens to me. That's clickbait. No, the fact that this couple, who were major news, this was a couple who accused the royal family, someone senior in the royal family, we narrowed it down to about 4, but 2 of them ain't speaking to them anymore, which I think might narrow it down to 2, accused them of racism against her and her unborn baby, and Archie. They said they'd been treated appalling and bullied and treated terribly and ousted from the family. They then leave the country in a fit of pique. They've then done documentaries, interviews with Oprah, a book, his book Spare, telling all sorts of stories. And now, behave, Philip. And now they're coming back to help between the legs. Now, remigration is what I'm calling it. Yeah, remigration.
We're thinking this all from completely the wrong angles. Harry is a good lad. He was a good officer.
Yes.
He has served his country.
Nothing but admiration for him on that.
And he still continues to do good with the Invictus Games and everything else, and putting his name to that. Meghan came in with a Hollywood view of what marrying into the royal family would be. Everything that she came in, her bubble was burst. And then she, finds it really difficult to settle in. And like, a lot of women who get a misconception and all the rest of it and come in, go, I don't like this, I want to get back to where my comfort blanket is. So they go back to the United States. In the United States, all of the people that are surrounding her are the Hollywood ones who are saying, we need to create cliques, we need to do this, we need to do that.
That's the key thing, they're not the Hollywood ones. All the people who surround her are people on the payroll.
Well, yeah, but they're following.
Don't have any family apart from my mum. Doesn't have any mates.
But they're. I didn't say they're mates. They're the Hollywood set that are out there to create a brand.
Yeah.
Meghan. It's all about clicks. It's all about sensationalism. It's all about and they've done all of that. There's been the separation between Harry and his father and all the rest of it. There's been green shoots of reconciliation. And
with the father, but not with the brother.
Yeah, with the father.
The future king.
But actually, let's take this down to a human bit. his father has been very seriously ill, and we don't know just how ill he is. And
some speculation in the last 24 hours that he is more unwell.
And he's more unwell than we're saying. And therefore, the estranged son has built relationship back up with father again and is coming to be close to him, for whatever length of time that
a family professional is great. Look, that's their business. That family, those family fallouts, that's between them. But I do think what is interesting is the accusations against the royal family. In the lifetime of the Queen, by the way, the last time that William and Harry saw each other, as far as we are aware, no reason to think any different, it was at the late Queen's funeral. Well, you say who cares, but nevertheless, Harry is actually still in line to the throne, unless some horrific accident happened. Yeah. He's in line to the throne, as are his children. I think what the key thing is here, this is about Meghan basically going, I don't like this life. I don't want to be down the pecking order. I'm having to curtsy to my sister-in-law. Don't like any of this at all.
To do that anyway.
I'm not. Well, they do in that little world. I'm not the big I am I thought I would be. I'm not living in the splendour I thought I would live in, because I'm living in the chaotic, ramshackle royal apartments that isn't quite up to Montecito standards. They go off, they play the victim. She thinks she's going to be a big star. She thought she was going to have a future career as, a democratic politician. They're going to have all the money. They've got these massive deals, Netflix, the book, everything. They've definitely made money. But it's kind of drying up. No one's short of her publishing her birth video for Archie, right? There's not really anything left to sell, right? They've sold everything they've got. And I said this at the time. Thing about, if you want to be a celebrity, celebrities have to reinvent themselves. You have to look different. You have to have new stories to tell. They have to play the victim. They have to do this and that. They've done all that in 2 years, 2-3 years. They've got nothing left. And now it's like, well, we've also lost all of our celebby friends, because all the American celebs were basically told, you're going to have to choose. When there's a royal event in England, or when William or whatever and Kate come on a visit, do you want to be with Harry and Meghan, or do you want to be with the future King of England? You know who they chose? The future King of England. Funnily enough. And basically it hasn't worked out. They've got no status. They're just nobodies. They're just a laughing stock. It's not making as much money as they want. They're coming back here. You know what that's about? Get those kids on that Buckingham Palace balcony. Get those kids in that Christmas morning walk to church. This is about re-establishing that family's royal credentials, even though non-working royals, all that. And all of this nonsense about security, all of these court cases are everything. A lot of that's just, this is just about, we haven't made it in the States, and they're creeping back with their tail between their legs. That's what I think is happening. That's absolutely what I think is happening. I say, as J.K. would say, economic migrants, that's what they are.
You said at the very beginning, when people do this, what they have to do, reinvent themselves. They're reinventing themselves again and coming back. So they're following the recipe that you said they need to follow. What's coming out of it? Lots of publicity, lots of free publicity, which means that they will be able to exploit that as they're coming in to make
they'll exploit it anyway. We're going to be the only people who are not talking about it. OK, I want to hear your thoughts on this. Give us a call, 0244 499 1000. You don't care. I don't make any difference to my life whether they're here or not. It really, really doesn't.
I like Harry.
But it is. I feel sorry for Harry. I think he's a little damaged soul. And I hate these people going, oh, I hope they split up. You should never wish that on anyone's parents. They are parents of young children. You never wish that on them. But I think it's interesting. The kids are going to be enrolled in school. Archie's 7, Lilibet is 5. That's quite interesting. They're going to be brought up British. They're going to be British royals. That's where the future lies. But it's going to be very interesting. Let's also talk, I say, far more about this Home Office booklet. I've got a printout of the booklet in front of me here. It is quite extraordinary. The fact that it's only in English, bit of a flaw, I would have thought. But we've seen case after case after case of so-called asylum seekers, illegal migrants, committing rape, sexual assaults, harassing women in the street, girls, just outrageous behaviour, again and again and again. And then we were told, oh, you talk about that, you're just being racist. What difference does it make of someone's nationality or their immigration status? Lots of people who were speaking out, mums, grandmas, sisters speaking out, Bell Hotel and Epping and all that, were basically accused of being racist bigots. Aren't we all these days for saying these asylum seekers behave in a disgusting way? One of the reasons why people are afraid, it's not because of the colour of people's skin. Everyone in the libtard lanyard wearing glasses has got to stop that nonsense. It's because of their behaviour. Everyone who, apparently there are a whole raft of people in this country, civil service, politicians, who are living in fantasy world where everyone's values around the world are the same. The majority of countries in this world, the majority of people in this world don't even live under a democracy. Why the hell you think these people would have democratic values is beyond me. The fact that in large parts of the world, but particularly in parts of the world where we are seeing a lot of people arriving in this country from Afghanistan, lots of places in the Middle East and North Africa, they are countries where women are second-class citizens. They just simply don't have the same rights as men. If they are not covered up, particularly from Muslim countries, I'm sorry, if you've been on holiday to places like Egypt and others, you're treated in the tourism world, you are treated a certain way. I'm telling you, the attitudes of the vast majority of men there in those countries, I've spent a lot of time in these places, the moment when you're not being treated as a tourist, if you are not covered up, you are basically your fair game. You are considered to be available sexually, because why would you not be if you're not covered up, showing yourself and men respect? So when they see women dressed completely normally in this country, no, they're not having to wear a miniskirt, they're just wearing jeans and a normal top. They consider a lot of those men, not all, but a lot of those men consider those women are fair game. But the idea you have to have a booklet which tells these men, and they are largely men, you know, we understand that coming to a new country can be difficult and that laws and customs here may be different from your home country. In the UK, there are laws to protect everyone's safety, dignity and right. It's important you understand them, because not following UK law can have serious consequences. You could get in trouble with the police, lose your asylum support, or it could affect your asylum claim. I mean, yeah, or you could be just breaking the law and needing to go. So it talks about gender equality. Women have equal rights. They can work and earn their own money, they can study or go to school or university, they can travel freely, they can choose who they marry or choose not to marry and make decisions about their own lives. So it tells them what to do. It says if you do treat someone unfairly because of their gender, your behaviour is controlling or threatening. Domestic abuse. I mean, it's extraordinary. They're having to tell men you are not allowed to physically or verbally abuse or control your wife. Sex. Both people have to consent. Women can change their mind at any point. If they are asleep, drunk or unable to respond, they cannot consent. Imagine having to be told that, oh, by the way, in the legal age consent in the UK is 16. That means, it says, that anyone under the age of 16 is considered a child and cannot legally agree to have sex. Even if they say yes, it says, it is still illegal. And then it adds, you could go to prison. But it's all about you will lose your rights. Respect in public. Don't make sexual comments. Don't follow people. Don't verbally abuse people because of their gender, religion or how they look. I mean, religion, I think we're talking about Jews, aren't we, at that point? I mean, just extraordinary stuff. What do you make of the fact, Philip, that we are told that anyone who says that, you know, we're importing a load of men from cultures which are foreign to us, who are alien to us, where they do not have our values, who are a danger to our women and children, that we are racist and bigoted, totally unfounded claims. The government is right now fighting a legal case to avoid publishing these statistics on criminality by nationality. There's no sodding way they don't have that information. Other countries have published it, and we know it would show criminality of men from certain countries will be way sky higher than anywhere else. And yet they published this document. What does that tell you?
Well, the publication of this document turns around and tells us all quite clearly that the government recognises that the people that they're letting into this country are not worthy of being in this country because they do not live to our values, and they're having to try and explain to them what it is. Yeah. They're trying to apply a sticking plaster on it. Look at the pattern that there is on the front of that document.
I'll just show you. Yeah, there's a pattern throughout the whole thing,
that pattern is very military fatigue-esque. Dealing with, and you know, we look at
it looked like some sort of scientific microbe.
No, we look at the majority of these channel crossings that are coming in. They're fighting-aged men. Yeah. So they're putting that in, you know, in a colour scheme that, you know, immediately I thought, oh, this is a military pattern. Oh no, this isn't. And telling people how they're supposed to behave. They're recognising that they don't know how to behave in this country. Yeah,
there's an admission that they've been lying to us, and we've been right all along.
Yeah, yet they let them out into the communities from moment one. This reinforces the point that they need to be kept in secure camps.
Exactly.
Before, as their asylum process is gone through to see if they're accepted, then the majority are just thrown out.
The bare minimum until they've had classes and stuff. What I find is fascinating, it's a guide, and it's asylum, consequences of behaviour, and it's just like, no, it's not okay. It should be, this is the law. You commit any of these crimes, you will be instantly thrown back in the sea, because we don't care where you go, but you ain't here.
Well, exactly.
I mean, but that's the thing. It is utterly extraordinary. I mean, again, it is just an abject admission of failure by the government, as far as I can see. Not that they'll admit that. Meanwhile, by the way, I mean, this is absolutely fascinating, because a migrant who raped a sleeping woman has won the right to remain in the UK. This was published yesterday, the same day that we found out about this booklet. Under, of course, you've guessed it, the European Convention on Human Rights. But I mean, just because we have apparently have a right to, he has a right to stay in this country, even though he has raped a woman. He's an Italian man, Hendrix Equin. He carried out the attack in 2017. The victim was drunk and unconscious. He raped her, but he's won the right to remain in the UK. I mean, again, he's Italian. But he made the application under the European Union settlement scheme, which would have let him stay in the country. He's been jailed for 8 years, but despite the verdict, he continues to maintain his innocence. He's blamed his victim. The judge has now granted his appeal against deportation after accepting he had, quote, learned his lesson and did not want to be known as, quote, that kind of person. He was completely strange. They'd not met each other before that night. He went to her home, and I mean, it's just extraordinary. But I mean,
but the whole thing's extraordinary.
On what basis? Why is this man in our country?
Yeah, exactly. And if someone has broken the law in this country to the point where he's been convicted and had a custodial sentence of that sort of length of time, he should not be allowed to stay in this country. Full stop.
I don't know why anyone is even debating this. Oh, I mean, it's not like, sorry, is Italy now not a safe country? Well, he's got a right because of the EU rules. No,
he doesn't have a right.
There's no right to live anywhere other than the country that you live. You're a guest. You're a guest until you... We invite people into our homes, but if someone came into your home and sexually accosted your daughter or started smashing up your kitchen table, I have a funny feeling they would no longer be treated as a guest in your home and you'd manhandle them out.
Yeah. Having a passport doesn't mean that you are entitled to stay somewhere. It means that you're entitled to be a guest there until someone says you're not entitled anymore.
I'm serious. I genuinely worry about the sanity and the morality of the people who are working in civil services, who are the judges, who are, I mean, again, we had that judge recently, the traveller, the boys who'd raped 14-year-old girls, one with having shown her a knife. And another girl sexually assaulted, and they were good boys, and they didn't want, the judge didn't want to ruin their life forever. What about the girls who'd been raped in a tunnel? I mean, it's just these judges. I think these judges need to go and get some counselling themselves, because I think they are under some weird illusion that about who's good and who's evil.
Oh, very, very much so, and we see this time after time after time. Where judges are not held to account for the decisions that they make, and the decisions defy all logic. There should be something that turns around and oversees what judges have done, instead of being another formal appeal process, and suddenly goes, "Hey, folks, this isn't quite right. You've put this out in public."
But what I don't get is, it's not even up for debate for a nanosecond for all normal, moral people.
Correct.
So why is there even a grey area to them? Yeah. I can understand someone saying, OK, someone shoplifted. Now I'm of the view, bye. But I can understand someone having a grey area. If you've got a grey area about rape or sexual assault, I mean, again, I accept that there are different grades of these crimes. There clearly are. Anyone who says there isn't is just not been living in the real world. But if you've got a grey area about whether someone who's not a British citizen, we're stuck with those rapists, but if not a British citizen, comes to this country and either sexually assaults or harasses or is convicted of a crime involving anything violence or sexual behaviour towards a woman or a man or a gay man or whatever it is in this country, sorry, gone. Nothing to discuss. Bye-bye. No, it's not even go now, ask questions later. No questions to ask. You're not our problem. You were a problem briefly, but you shouldn't have been, but you're definitely not now. I genuinely think that we need to start sacking a whole load of judges and civil servants and tribunals and lawyers people who really, it's not a witch hunt, but like these people are not representing this country's views.
I agree with the gone, but the trouble is the law in this country. I support the death penalty and would be happy if it came in, but not the way the law is in this country, because the law in this country is all about the grey area.
Yeah.
It's not about what happened and fact. It's about what can be proven beyond reasonable doubt. And the trouble is, this comes down to the differential arguments between two barristers / KCs
I'm afraid
in court.
You very rarely do know what the facts are. It usually does come down to different arguments.
In some cases, there are facts.
Yeah, in some cases, actually in the vast majority of cases now, actually there's usually two drunk people and they're armed. That's the terrible thing. What I find fascinating, the Home Secretary, obviously back from her hole, Shabana Mahmood, she has extraordinary... the Sun revealed today the Rwanda-style plan to remove failed asylum seekers to third countries is now being actively looked at by Labour. The Home Secretary said that live conversations over return hubs, is what they're calling them, were happening, she said, across Europe, in other parts of the world as well. They're looking for new ways to ramp up removals. And this is what they're saying, we've actually speeded up removals. Still a fraction of the number of people who've come to this country. But so Rwanda can't work. Let's try something sort of like Rwanda. I mean, what does that tell you?
Well, it tells you that the decision to bin Rwanda was purely a political one to try and get clickbait again, instead of basing it on the fact that we were the major opposition that delayed it and delayed it and delayed it under the last government, so it could never work. Actually, now we've got in, let's make it work. And actually, I read through the article, we're actually paying for people to be deported to third-party countries from France. We're British taxpayers are paying for it to stop them getting up to Calais. We should be getting rid of them from this country as quickly. Why are we paying for France to be cleared of their migrants first?
Genuinely, today is just a day of, I mean, despair, I think, is incredulity. Today, by the way, also hopefully a good day if you're a parent or a grandparent of a kid getting their GCSE results today, and I hope the results have been good. Lucy Powell, interestingly, the Education Secretary, who does just another terrible appearance on telly and radio this morning, she said yesterday that teenagers who fail English and maths and have to do resets, getting stuck in a cycle and cannot progress to apprenticeships. And she wants to crack down, she says, on the pernicious system of GCSE results that basically requires you basically got to get maths and English GCSEs to some vague level 4, formerly a C. But it wouldn't have been a C in our day. It would have probably been an E in our day. This is a very low standard, I'm sorry. But she wanted to be on the reset treadmill of failure. Basically, you've got a 1 in 5 chance if you do a reset of these exams of actually passing. So these kids basically can't go on to an apprenticeship. Her argument is that a lot of these kids are actually not academic, but they can do technical stuff. And I get that. However, we're not talking about doing Latin to grade A standard here. We are talking about very basic maths and English here to a very basic standard to get a grade 4 a GCSE in those subjects, which is a skill kids have. But what I love is the whole, we'll make the exams easier or you won't have to do resits, as opposed to, why don't we make sure the kids are taught better?
Well, there's make sure they're taught better, but also then give a clear pathway for some. You know, there's some children, not a large majority, but there's some children who just won't be able to do it because they mature at different ages. So
no, not just that. Some children have learning difficulties.
Exactly.
I get that.
Give
but
them
we're
a
not
pathway.
talking about that tiny minority.
Yeah, but give kids a pathway to something else, and at some stage you find a lot of kids who will then go through a different pathway later on in life will suddenly come back and get their qualification and be able to move on.
Teaching them those basic things, you find, great, you're going to be a great plumber or mechanic. It'd be really, really useful if you could vaguely read English and do basic maths as well.
Yeah, it would.
There we are. So much to talk about. I want to hear your thoughts on everything. Give us a call, 0344 499 1000. Your calls are up next. This is Talk.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your...
Good morning, welcome back to the show. Trevor Kavanagh's coming up next. Let's get your calls. So interestingly, and I've said, call in on what you want. All the calls so far on migration. Very happy with that, by the way. But if you want to call in about the Royals, you're welcome to as well. But let's get straight to... Philip is still shaking his head. Scott is on the line in Essex. Hello, Scott, what do you want to say? Hello, Scott. Hello, Scott. Can't get Scott on the line. Let's go to Stephen in Manchester.
Oh, hello. Good morning. Right. The government's guidance for incoming migrants on how to treat women tells you all you need to know in terms of what their intention is, because this guidance would not be issued to a group other than one that they were determining would stay. And their essential policy flies in the face of, in the teeth of the British public, and there's only one answer, and I hope the British public are awake to this. Number one, dispense with a Labour or left government, and number two, send these men home. And if we don't do that, it's the end of the British story. We cannot carry on in this manner.
I just don't know how many women and girls are expendable for the price of mad, insane beliefs.
Well, the answer is it's interminable. As far as the Labour woke left are concerned, it can just go on indefinitely. This is why the British public can have, there's no wiggle room here. We need to vote reform.
That's your answer. OK, great. Well, thank you very much for that, Stephen. Appreciate that. Let's go to another call. Eileen is in Essex. Hello, Eileen.
Good morning.
Morning.
Hi, Julia. Hi. It's about the rape-friendly leaflet, really. And just the fact that the human rights lawyers would just use that as an excuse that they couldn't read it because it's in English. And,
oh, my God, Eileen, in a year's time, we are absolutely going to be reporting on that on the show. Help!
Well, I mean, I don't know if they do it on purpose or they're really just incompetent. We're just the laughing stock of the world, I think.
Yeah.
And I truly think, Julia, women and girls now are under attack in this country.
I don't know. You're not allowed to say that because that makes you a racist bigot, Eileen.
I don't care.
But this thing, people point all this stuff out and we talk, how outrageous. What do you mean that these men come from alien cultures and they don't share our values? What an outrageous thing to say. So it then turns out that a load of these men don't share our culture, our values. And then, OK, well, we'll advise them that they should.
But they're not going to take any notice of the leaflet anyway.
Of course not. I mean, of course they're not. I mean, if they're feeling a bit, what's the term? Feeling a bit rapey today. Oh, let me just double check that leaflet. Does it say I can rape someone? Oh, I quite like the look of that 14-year-old girl in her school uniform. Let me double check. Oh no, it says I could lose my asylum application if I do that.
Oh, it's all crazy.
It's crazy, but it's also, frankly, let's be honest, terrifying as well.
It is.
But they know it. They know it's happening. They know it's a problem, and they're really not going to do anything about it.
But I've been looking into, isn't there any way that we can use the ECHR or the UN Convention or some sort because we're not being protected here?
Our human right not to have our daughters raped. I feel that's quite a fundamental one. But there we are. Eileen, I couldn't agree with you more, and I really feel you're all right. Thank you very much indeed. 10:35 is the time. I'm going to take a quick break. Trevor Kavanagh, former political editor of The Sun, up next. This is Talk.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning, welcome back to the show. 10:37 is the time. Trevor Kavanagh's here, former political editor of The Sun. Trevor, where do we start, my love? So much to talk about. Trevor, let's start with asylum seekers having to be told, oh, could you not rape women and children or beat your wives?
Well, I just have to ask, Julia, why do they think they are here? I mean, they have been brought up to treat women as chattels, as sexual partners from the age of 12 to 14 upwards, and to regard them as their toys. And when they arrive here, and probably have already heard about our wonderful rape gangs that have been operating across Britain for 20 years, operated by people of a Pakistani origin, but they might as well be anywhere else across that particular neck of the woods, in Afghanistan in particular, with the Taliban treating them little better than livestock. What do we expect from these mostly young, testosterone-bursting young men to do when they arrive here?
Well, but I mean, this is the thing. But for years, people, including yourself and me, have been saying about, look, not all cultures are equal. We don't think that they're all... I'm not a relativist. The Western liberal culture, when I liberal in the true sense of the word, is the superior moral culture in this country, full stop, in this world. Equality for men and women, your sexuality, black and white, marry who you want, religious freedom, all of these things. We are a superior culture to the rest of the world where people don't have all of those freedoms and rights. And yet we're told, no, they're all the same, they're all the same. They're not. And then, no, apparently, when these people come here, they'll just adapt immediately, when they clearly haven't. And the people pointing out they haven't are being accused of being racist and bigots, as we're accused every single day for pointing out any facts at all. And now they're basically admitting that we were right all along, aren't they?
They are. And I mean, look, what we have today is Britain, the whole of Britain is now a rape crisis centre on its own. You cannot, as a young woman, travel safely on the railways if it's not a fully crowded, and even if it is a crowded compartment, especially on the tube, the London Underground, constant. I mean, there are signs up everywhere. Staring is an offence. Step in if you see someone being molested. Yeah. I mean, this is rampant. It is across the whole...
My young female colleagues have said it again. I've said, it's any different how it used to be. And, I know a lot of teenage girls, and it is fascinating just how much more, they'll describe, who are the men doing this? And it's not like, hey, baby, you look great, can I get your number? It's, you're not allowed to say no. You'll be followed. You'll be touched. Girls are being followed home, for miles.
Exactly.
No is not an option because, well, women don't get to say no in a lot of these cultures.
Absolutely not. And, you were talking earlier about the culture in the West and in particular in Britain, which is basically an awful lot of that is learning that we ourselves here in the last couple of generations have had to absorb for ourselves, that we don't whistle and leer at women, we don't harass them. And this is something that the Labour Party in particular has driven very hard, but they've abandoned that, it seems, in favour of the anti-Islamic sort of protest, the racism barb. If you are young and white, you do not have the protection, as one of your callers just said, of human rights protection. Yeah. The police do not care too much about this sort of behaviour. I mean, I personally have reported what seemed like an attack or a preparation for an attack on a young white woman who just arrived from America. Yeah. And I called the police and told them exactly, the transport police in this case, I was on a train, and they said, well, we can't deal with this because he hasn't yet committed a crime. Well, I don't think the girl was particularly helped by that.
No, well, no, indeed. I mean, again, they probably wouldn't have done anything either way anyway. Is this, though, at least at one level, is this actually a good thing that we've got this bit of guidance? The fact that it's, by the way, only in English. I double-checked, it's not been translated into any other languages, so as one of my callers, Eileen, just pointed out, they could just say, well, I didn't understand it. I speak Farsi, or I speak Arabic. I didn't understand it, so how could I have known it wasn't OK to rape? It's been used as an excuse in courts in the last few years, and judges have accepted it. Didn't know he wasn't allowed to rape the 14-year-old, poor dear. Let's give him a cuddle and, and another, I don't know, Xbox. box for his troubles. But is there an element where the fact that they're doing this kind of shows that they know that there is a problem, and that's the first stage of perhaps getting them to do something about it, which is obviously A, deporting everybody, B, before they're deported they need to be in camps. But is this at least a start?
It is a start. It is actually, Julia, and I'm absolutely sure you'll agree with this. This is an actual admission, a blatant admission that we are in a crisis.
Yeah.
That we have a huge number of active young men with no partners who are grouping together in hostels and elsewhere with nothing else to do except look around at what appears to them to be freely available young women dressed in ways which to them is provocative and an open invitation. They have been brought up through the whole of their adult life in other countries to believe this, and to think that anyone who isn't modestly dressed in their terms, which means total top-to-toe coverage, is asking for it.
It's amazing how many white, liberal, middle-class women don't get this. I've even been, like, in airports. I've gone scuba diving, Red Sea. I've been in airports, women, and where they're dressed, I'm like, what are you thinking, allowing their 12-year-old girl barely clad in anything, something that I would certainly find unacceptable to anyone to wear in public, but certainly not in a Muslim country. Again, if you want to go to a Muslim country, I think you do need to be respectful of people's expectations of clothing. I think that's a bare minimum, or don't go. But genuinely, allow your 12-year-old daughter to just, walk off. The cleaners in the toilets are all men. Your daughter, as far as they're concerned, your daughter's wearing a bikini. What do you think's going to happen? I actually said to people, I think you should go with your child. I don't think your child is safe. And I'm not casting aspersions on everyone. I'm just saying I've been to this country enough to know that their attitudes are completely different. There's this weird idea of lots of people in the West, but particularly on the left, that everyone shares all of our values and beliefs. They don't.
Well, I mean, we've just passed the 5th anniversary of the Taliban rule in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
5 years is a long time in the lifetime of these young guys who are coming over, who are in their late teens, early 20s. Yeah. I mean, all of their formative years have been under Taliban rule. They are used to seeing women treated literally as livestock and who have to be covered up and not heard. Their voices are not allowed to be heard outside their homes. Yeah. And basically they need to be under mafia-type protection wherever they go, under the protection of a brother or a father. Yeah. When you've got a society like that and you're brought up into it, what do you think it's like when you come to a country like Britain? It's like being released into a candy store. Yeah. And we've got now a couple of 100,000. We really don't know just how many undocumented migrants have arrived. And most of them have come from exactly these cultures. Yeah. And frankly, I think that this crisis note that's now been delivered, and everything else is available in various translations. If you go to any public sector office, whether it's employment or health or benefits, you can choose your language and even have an interpreter ready to talk to you. Why isn't this available? Why is it even necessary to distribute a leaflet like that saying, please don't rape our kids?
Yeah, it is utterly mind-blowing, isn't it? I want to talk about the other big story, front pages, a few of the newspapers, as well as that story, of course, and that is remigration, as I'm trying to call it. Instead of Megxit, we've got Meghan and Harry coming back just a couple of weeks' time. Apparently they just decided after a trip in the summer, quite like Britain, want to get back here. Kids suddenly enrolled in schools, 5 and 7. They're coming back to live, probably looking at the Cotswolds, living in the country, somewhere rather nice. And they're suddenly coming back. What does that tell you? Is this them basically admitting it ain't worked out too well in Montecito?
Well, I think as Hugo Rifkin of The Times has just pointed out, this is the rarest possible example of a rich person returning to this country under the present regime. Well, I mean, look, it really does tell you a lot, the fact that Meghan is prepared to come back to this country that she left and detested at the time because of the way that it treated her because she's black. It must be an indication that that marriage and that family is under enormous strain. They wouldn't be coming back if life in California had been proved to be a success. They wouldn't be coming back if they were making a mint from their jam, etc. They are coming back because probably Harry is desperately homesick. Meghan is coming back probably because it's the only way of saving her marriage.
Or saving the brand.
Is there a brand?
Well, getting the kids. I think the whole thing. This is about the kids. They're royals. They're royal prince. She was very keen on them having their titles. They were going to be private citizens, but the kids have to have their titles, prince and princess. And getting on that balcony, getting on that Buckingham Palace balcony along with the king.
I think the kids are the answer to the whole thing. You're absolutely right, Julia. They're looking at the future. They're, as someone rather savagely described them, they're now middle-aged and not very interesting anymore. So
God, if they're middle-aged, what the hell are we... How the hell are we still surviving? Trevor, there's so much more I want to talk to you about, reform and all that and fighting. Haven't got time for it. We've too much to do. Trevor Cavanagh, always great to get your views. Thank you so much, former political editor of The Sun. I'm not going to ask Philip Ingram about the Royals again, so just sigh at me. 10:47 is the time there. I will be talking to the former head of Royal Protection, Di Davies. We were told, were we not, that Harry couldn't even come here on a trip with his kids and his wife because it was so unsafe here. So why is it suddenly safe enough to enrol his kids in school and to live here? We'll talk to Di about what may or may not have happened. In the meantime, this is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning. Welcome back to the show. 10:51 is the time. Against Philip Ingram's better judgment, we are going to talk about Harry and Meghan returning. But it is your area of expertise. As a former senior military intelligence officer, and that's about security and things. Yeah. Going to talk about this with Di Davies. He's former head of Royal Protection. Get Philip's thoughts in a moment. Very good morning to you, Di.
Good morning, Julia. Lovely to be with you again.
Thank you so much for joining us. I mean, this is the interesting thing. I mean, rather than the sort of Hello Magazine tittle tattle about Harry and Meghan coming back, what's she going to wear on the plane? The really interesting thing is they left Megxit. There was this whole big thing, wasn't it, that there'd been racism in the royal family. They didn't want to have a life as royals. They're non-working royals, but they wanted to keep HRHs. They wanted to keep titles for the kids. They're prince and princess. But the main issue coming back visiting even, has been always about security. He came back in the summer, Meghan and the kids came back, they saw the King, apparently, and now suddenly, out of the blue, we learned last night, they are planning to come back here and live. The kids will be enrolling in school, starting in just a couple of weeks' time. Still non-working royals, but although we know a lot of these court cases are now over in terms of court cases, the Home Office, court cases against pretty much every newspaper in the country, there's always been this ongoing security issue. So what has changed?
Well, it's a very good question. I think I was shocked last night when I got the phone call asking me to come on various shows to talk about it. It is a complete 100% about face, isn't it? I mean, it's just extraordinary, really. And really, must have been in the planning for some time, I would have thought.
Well, apparently it's just been in the last few weeks, which is rubbish. No one does that. So.
I think for whatever reasons, and I don't know the reasons, and I don't know whether it's true, things aren't going very well in California. They may well be or not. But clearly something has changed. How on earth you can go from saying this country is so dangerous, I can't bring it. What it did show, though, was when he went to see his father, how if he keeps quiet, if he doesn't tell anyone where he's going, how it can be done quite successfully.
Yep.
And he went to Highgrove, then he went to see his late mother's grave, apparently, stayed with his uncle, so on and so forth.
And we barely knew any of it. There was little tidbits. But again, we don't know what happened in the conversations. I mean, it's a mind-blowing idea that you could keep this stuff private.
Well, it is, in one sense, that he has kept this private. As I say, it must have been thought out, where are they going to live? Because if kids are going to go to school, they're too young to board. So there must be a house that they've reconnoitred. But again, that takes time to make a place secure, because they're so paranoid about their security that would take months.
And we're told that it's going to be not on the royal estate. And there are numerous, but one of the reasons why we were told, they had Frogmore Cottage and things like that, it's all on this royal estate, and there's this extra layer of security, apparently.
Well, again, and if they're going to go to school, that's going to come out, whether they like it or not. And the children's faces are now going to be all over the world press.
Well, that's one of the issues. And again, and this comes back to what it was like with Diana and what it was like also with Harry and William as well when they were young, which is actually the British media do deals, and I think quite rightly on this respect when it comes to children, where the children get their privacy, get to have a normal life. There are even, I know, the cases where there'd be footage of William being walked to school on his first day at his new school with mum and dad, and Dan, and not William, sorry, the young Prince George, and he's walking with mum and dad, and it's all fine, and loads of paparazzi. But actually, that was filmed, a few days earlier. So he actually, in return for which, on his actual first day at school, he actually has a normal experience like every other kid. And I have to say, good. I mean, I think maybe we could just live without not seeing pictures of him on his first day at school. He's a kid. I think children's privacy should be absolutely protected. But there's no doubt, even as non-working royals, surely Buckingham Palace will do some sort of deal where those children's lives can be protected.
Well,
but only when they can't protect them from the foreign paparazzi.
Well, that's the trouble, isn't it? The British press, by and large, will go with what you just said, and rightly so. I agree with you totally. But here we are. Archie's 7 years of age now, and Lilibet is 5. Here we are. I don't think some of the foreign press, there's such a worldwide frenzy now. And this will be a frenzy. It's been a frenzy. My phone hasn't stopped this morning. It is a frenzy. And it's gone again. Royalty protection and protection of royals, yet again, is frontline headlines because of this. And again, for a couple who are paranoid about their safety, apparently, for them to come to this conclusion, back to a country which they've dished. They haven't stopped dishing us in every shape and form, in written form, in verbal forms, to come back and expect to have a welcome in open arms beggars belief, frankly.
Yeah. And indeed, huge beef with a number of the big media organisations, settlements with some, losing to others, winning with others. But certainly, when you look at, Paul Dacre, executive Uber Group of Führer, the editor at the Mail still, he absolutely furious that his newspapers and his journalists were dragged through the mud by Harry, and they won their case. The Mail won their case hand down. They're not going to hold back.
Well, I would hope common sense and decency, irrespective of what they've been through, would apply. And I think that would apply to the vast majority of journalists, as I've said on your program, others who are eminently decent people. I really do believe that. And I think the vast majority of British media will do that. But this is an extraordinary case, and we don't know what the outcomes are going to be, and it's going to be discussed ad infinitum for the next few weeks, isn't it?
It's the only thing Philip Ingram wants to talk about, Di. Di Davies, thank you so much for joining us, former head of Royal Protection. Really appreciate your time. Philip Ingram, look, the security issue is a big issue. I've always said I think he's entitled to security because of his role in Afghanistan. He fought for our country and he's made himself a target as a result. And also because it wasn't his choice to be the son of the King and the late Diana. It wasn't his choice. And I think I would worry for security. And I certainly think that the children should be protected. If they don't want us to see their faces, I don't want us to see their faces. I think we should absolutely respect that.
100%. One of the disabling things about this country is everything is down to process. One of the enabling things about this country is everything is down to process. And there is a set process there. And it seems that Harry has now accepted that process. And there's a committee called the Executive Committee for the Protection of Royalty and VIPs. And when we look at that, we go, well, what's he got to do with that? Well, Keir Starmer got Taylor Swift counter-terror protection going to a concert using that committee. And that committee looks at three things. It looks at the threat that there is to the individuals and each of the individuals separately and then collectively. It looks at the vulnerability that they are. So whenever they're at different places, what additional protection might be needed there as opposed to the threat. And then they look at the impact of something going wrong, that impact from a country perspective, on the family perspective and everything else. And because he's linked to the royal family, he may not be a working member, the impact is quite high. They bring all that together, and that will then dictate what level of security the state will provide.
And you've always said, you're really very clear, if there was a threat, he would be getting security. Because obviously he could pay for security. Anyone can, any celeb can pay for security.
And he will.
But the key thing is, in America, they can have guns, right?
Yes.
Even in California, not really a gun state, but in America they can have guns. But you can't just have security with guns in this country, not officially. I imagine some high-profile figures might well do that, but secretly. But he would need to have official security for that.
He would need to have official security for that, but then that's something that would come out as part of the threat assessment that's looking there. Remember, the criminals have difficulty getting hold of the sorts of guns that they'd need for anything in this country, so they use other methods. And you put a lot of the protection mechanisms in place for other potential attacks, and that'll keep them safe.
Well, I mean, fascinating. Love to hear your thoughts on this. Particularly, I want to hear your thoughts on that absurd, outrageous, disgusting booklet handed out to illegal migrants, let's call them what they are, telling them, well, basically not to rape or to have sex with kids. Nice of them to do that. I want to hear your thoughts. This is Talk.
It is therefore my honour to declare that the duly elected leader of the Labour Party is Andy Burnham.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks so much. I believe in all of you, and I am confident we can do it. Thank you very much. I have just come from Buckingham Palace, where I have accepted His Majesty the King's invitation to form a government. I know people at home are fed up with politics. I hear you.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good afternoon, good morning, wishing the morning away. It's fast approaching 3 minutes past 11, which is most definitely morning. This is Talk, the home of common sense, with me, Julia Hartley-Brewer. Now, look, whether you're listening on DAB Plus Radio, watching on YouTube, it's great to have your company, great to have your thoughts on all the big stories. And there are two massive big stories today, are there not? No, it's not GCSEs, I'm afraid. Unless it probably is the biggest story in your house if your kids or your grandkids or whoever have got their GCSE. I hope they did well. I hope they're all right. I hope they haven't failed their maths and English GCSE, because, by the way, Lucy Powell says, don't worry, we're not going to have the treadmill of failure. They can just go on and do their tech course anyway. That's the plan in the future. But two biggest stories, of course. The Home Office handing out booklets to illegal migrants, asylum seekers, but we know what they are, illegal migrants, warning them not to rape women, not to have sex with children under the age of 16, or to beat their wives. It's good that they have to tell those people that, isn't it? It's almost like these are an awful lot of young, dangerous men coming from cultures that are completely alien to ours, who are a danger to us. I know, it's weird, because a lot of us have been saying that for years, and we were just racist bigots. I mean, you're called a racist bigot just for voting for Brexit these days, aren't you? But apparently, pointing out, facts doesn't make you a good person. Doesn't mean that you can go to the right dinner parties in North London, or hang around with your lanyard-wearing colleagues at work. That makes you unpopular, doesn't it? Pointing out facts. But this really is an admission from the Home Office, is it not? That actually we've been right all along, and actually women and children are at risk. Oh yeah, and also that they're going to carry on putting them at risk, because these men are not being kept in deportation camps, and they're jolly well not being deported, are they? Although the Home Secretary is apparently looking at another Rwanda-style scheme. It's almost like there was a Rwanda-style scheme for Rwanda. They could have maybe kept that, could they not? I want to hear your thoughts on that. I also love to hear your thoughts on Harry and Meghan planning to move back to Britain. What changed? We were an unsafe country. Everyone in the royal family's racist. Suddenly they're back in a few weeks' time. Do you welcome them back? Why do you think they've come back? Is it about security all being sorted out? Or have they come back with their tails between their legs? Because ain't worked out on the celebrity trail in California quite as well as they hoped. I'd love to hear your thoughts on anything and everything we are talking about. Give us a call, 0344 499 1000. Text the word TALK in your message to 87222. Get in touch with us on X at talkTV. Calls are charged to the national rate. Text costs £1. Standard network rate message. Delighted to say royal correspondent Philip Ingram MBE is here. No, he's genuinely, I can't tell you how cross he is with me today for making him talk about royals even briefly. We'll leave that for now. We'll talk about this. We'll talk about this pamphlet. Hold it up for you. Understanding Behaviours and Expectations in the UK. A guide for asylum seekers. Asylum. I'm going to read consequences of behaviour. Now, interestingly, this is written in English, which I'm sure is a lot of use to all the young men who arrive on our shores in dinghies from Afghanistan, Eritrea, Iraq, Somalia, you name it, Algeria. Huge number of people arriving in this country and not probably speaking very good English. And so I'm not sure a lot of people who failed their their English GCSE would be able to cope with some of this language. But living in the UK, it says, if you're in the UK because you are seeking asylum, well, in the UK because they're economic migrants, we understand that coming to a new country can be difficult, and the laws and customs here may be different from your home country. In the UK, there are laws that protect everyone's safety, dignity and rights. It is important you understand them, because not following UK law can have serious consequences. Can you feel the wagging finger from the nice lady with the lanyard from the Home Office saying this? And it then goes on, page after page, with the most extraordinary stuff, explaining that women are allowed to work and earn their own money and go to school or university. They're allowed to travel freely and even allowed to marry or not marry anyone of their choice and make decisions about their own lives. I know that's going to be a revelation to a lot of people. It's not actually allowed to hit your wife. I know, when did that happen? You're expected to treat your partner and family with respect. You're even allowed to let them make their own choices. I know, it's such a shock to all of us. When you have sex, both parties should have consented and continue to consent. A woman who is asleep, drunk or unable to respond cannot consent. That is rape. And sex with someone under the age of 16 is a serious crime in the UK. There are no exceptions to this rule. Even if they say yes, it is still illegal. You could go to prison. Not will, not will. You could go to prison, lose your support and accommodation, and it will affect your asylum claim. Except apparently it doesn't affect your asylum claim because people get to stay even though they have done this. You're also not allowed to make sexual comments or whistle at women and follow them or verbally abuse people because of their being a woman or maybe, I don't know, different religion. I don't know, maybe Jewish? Maybe Jewish, I don't know, throwing that out there. I mean, it's an extraordinary little booklet. Is it going to make it, A, a blind bit of difference, Philip Ingram, to how these men behave? And B, is it not just an absolute open, clear admission that actually they've been lying to us all along and they knew just as well as we did that a lot of these men are a danger to women and children in this country?
Well, I don't know if the original document is printed on paper with little perforations along it. That would have a secondary use, which is probably what many of the individuals come in would use it for, because they're not going to play a blind bit of difference to it. And there's a number of different things that come out of this. One, it's an admission by the Home Office that there is a problem and we're importing a problem. Two, the language that's in it is so woolly. We have to remember that this has to be translated, even if it's just in their minds, into their own language and all the rest of it. A lot of languages don't translate woolly talk well, and therefore it needs to be black and white in what it's doing. And three, we've just had an example of a grandfather being raped by an asylum seeker, male on male. This only talks about male on female, which is the majority. It's in there, but there needs to be something clear in there to say that all rape, all sexual assault is wrong, and
Well, actually, a lot of it does talk about, someone, if someone is asleep or if someone, they both parties have to consent.
But does someone translate into Urdu?
I mean, that's the thing, isn't it?
Trouble. Yeah, it needs to be exact language. It needs to be direct. Just don't let them in the first place.
I knew there was another solution to the problem. But again, we're not allowed to say in the new world order in this country, we're not allowed to say, and across a lot of Europe, that not all cultures are equal. Yeah. And not all cultures are as moral as ours and as safe as ours, and that in not all cultures are women, gay people, children treated. I mean, the BBC, you remember only a few months ago, I think we discussed it on the show, didn't we? They had this report which was basically about this poor dad, this poor father was it Afghanistan, who was so poor he'd had to sell one of his daughters for child marriage to someone else to get enough money to feed his other children. Now, no one would want to be in that position, but there was very little about this poor little glassy-eyed child who was basically being sold into daily rape by a man. I mean, she was tiny. OK, she wasn't going to be handed over until she was, I don't know, 9 or 12 or something, so that makes it OK. Forced marriage, arranged marriage that isn't completely consensual, children being betrothed to cousins, before they're even out of nappies. This stuff is barbaric, medieval stuff. It is still perpetuated in large parts of the world. And we're all supposed to go, well, it's a cultural thing. It's like Afghanistan, the treatment of women 5 years on. And yet, isn't it, as an Ireland who claim they care so much about human rights when it comes to this supposed country called Palestine, massively care about that. Happily, haven't they got their cricket team playing? Men's cricket team in Afghanistan. Women aren't allowed to have a cricket team, not even allowed out to watch cricket, not allowed out their homes or to speak or to sing. But they're willing to do that. Well, I mean, I supported the boycott of apartheid South Africa because, clearly if black people don't have the same rights as white people or mixed race people don't have the same rights as white people, we should not be treating that country as a normal country. But when it's women, that's just a cultural, religious difference that we should not only accept, respect. Well, I don't respect it and I don't accept it, and if you come to my country you will sodding well obey those laws in my country. And by the way, one of those laws is you don't get to arrive on a dinghy. Correct.
And if you look at if you look at what Shabana Mahmood's saying at the minute, where she's saying she's going to spread asylum housing more fairly around the UK. Well, what she's actually saying, because her department has just published this, is that she's going to spread people around who don't understand our values, who have to have a pamphlet to say, don't rape anyone.
So what we don't want is all of the rapes and sexual assaults to happen in just a few areas. We'd like them to happen over other parts of the country. That's literally what they're saying.
It is. And this is all coming out of the same department. The government, is admitting that it has failed completely. Instead of actually dealing with the problem and stopping people coming in, and any that do get in, keeping them in secure camps until they can be processed out of the country again.
But this is the thing, there'll be people saying, look, not all asylum seekers are rapists. There'll be some genuine asylum seekers, I accept that. Most are not. Most are economic migrants. There are plenty of places they could have stopped along the way. They're coming here for benefits, for basically you're never going to get deported and you're going to get a house. What's not to like? You might have a third cousin somewhere along the way living somewhere. You could, you've spoken some English because you've heard some American music and watched a film at some point. I mean, that's what we're talking about. But it's like, okay, so they're not all rapists. I'm not saying that. I'm not. I don't. If you are raised in a world where this is the norm, you're not even necessarily a bad person. This is just your culture. But some cultures aren't as good as our culture. We used to use those moral terms. But how many rapists is too many? How many is too little? And then you get the people say, well, we've got plenty of rapists and paedophiles and sexual abusers in our... Yeah, I know. And we should lock more of them away. And we can't get rid of them. We're stuck with them. But I don't think that's an argument for importing any more.
Yeah, 100% is not an argument for importing any more. And there's no reason why we can't get rid of them. The Parliament managed to change the law to allow the pubs to stay open for a football match. I'm sorry. If you can do that, and they can't get something right to get these illegals out of this country, that shows where Parliament's priorities are.
It really is. I imagine it's rather easier to do the football thing, but even so...
Well, no, it's not. This is the majority.
My thing is, again, how hard does it have to be? Why don't we just line up all the women and girls who were sexually assaulted and raped and say, so how much longer does this list have to be? And by the way, a lot of these aren't even reported. Yeah. A lot of this never even goes to the police. And if they've gone to the police, it's not even come to trial. We don't know anything about it. We know that for a couple of years, they were actually hiding the immigration status. They were literally efforts. Councillors who were given this information, reform councillors, were talking about it and then being castigated and chastised for actually being public about it, as if in some way this would prejudice a trial. I mean, it's just outrageous. I'm both horrified, bemused, flabbergasted, angry. I don't know how long the people who claim to be the good people, the people who claim to be the nice people, the people who claim to be the ones who care, how long are they going to let this carry on happening before they will do something about it?
Well, as one of our callers said earlier, why don't we start to apply the European Court of Human Rights legislation for the people, the benefit of the people in this country, and instead of for those that are illegally coming into this country. And we need to start to do that.
And as you pointed out earlier, we've got a new Rwanda-style crackdown on failed asylum seekers, apparently being looked at by the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, and also she's reiterated what Andy Burnham has said about spreading asylum housing more fairly around the UK. We didn't want them in the hotels because they were costing a load of money. We didn't want all our hotels used up. The answer to that was not to put them in lots of houses of multiple occupancy in one area, around that hotel, or to spread them to a leafy area. Or the answer is internment camps with barbed wire and Alsatian dogs outside, and then deportation. Anyone who thinks anything different is frankly stock-staring mad and immoral. Immoral. But this is it. I mean, Shabana Mahmood has been hailed as this, oh no, she's one of the sane ones. Yeah, in the kingdom of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. She's just the one-eyed man at this point because that's how crazy things are. Let's also talk that. I'm going to make you do it briefly. Just you can hear it. You can hear it. Philip Ingram, royal correspondent. Harry and Meghan plotting their return back to Britain. It's going to be within weeks. Absolute surprise. Look, this was a big bombshell story, as was them leaving the country. It's something that apparently they've been looking at for the last few weeks, and suddenly decided it did feel safe. We've had massive security concerns. He's basically, he's been suing virtually every newspaper group in the country. Those have either been settled, or he's won or lost. Those seem to all be over. There was that ongoing case against, effectively, His Majesty's government about security for him. We thought that was settled, but he, I'm not bringing my family over. It can't be public because it's not safe. Where's that all gone? They were supposed to be, non-working royals having a private life. Their life has been anything but private. They're bringing their kids back, 5-year-old Libby and Lilibet and 7-year-old Archibald. And they're Archie. They're coming back and they're going to be enrolled in British schools. Do you think this is them basically admitting, yeah, the whole celeb millionaire thing in California hasn't gone as well as we'd hoped. Netflix and everyone else and Spotify, everything they do basically gets cancelled. We made a load of money from his memoir, a load of money from that first Netflix series, which was a fascinating watch, I'm ashamed to admit. But actually everything else has pretty much bombed. And we're no longer on the A-list circuit. We're a bit of a laughing stock. We're going to have to re-establish our royal status by coming back and getting a little bit of stardust from the royal family, maybe getting the kids onto that Buckingham Palace balcony for the King's next birthday or whatever the event is, a bit of trooping the colour or something. I think that's where we are. Where do you think we are?
Well, possibly, but you know, we've got parents that are maybe wanting to try and get the best for the kids. Is that wrong? And
no good schools in California.
Well, you're clearly not up to the same sort of standards as the schools in the United Kingdom. That says a lot for the education system in the United Kingdom. That's coming. But we've also got, you know, a son who's been estranged from his father for a long time. His father's quite seriously ill, and you know, he is set in condition to come back to be near him. I don't think we can criticise him for that at all. The rest of it is, you know, clickbait.
Yeah, this is. I mean, this is true. There is an issue over trying to have a private life when you are as famous as they are, and privacy for their children. I think parents have the right to be in the public eye and do their thing. And if they choose not to publish pictures of their children, I would suggest stop having any pictures, even with the kids' faces blurred out or kids facing away. But you know, that's their choice, and I think that should be respected. But it ain't going to be respected by international paparazzi. That said, they've been out in California where the rules are much more lax, and they have been able to protect their kids out there. Will they still be able to do it here?
And again, I think they will be able to do it here. You know, they'll get the right sort of security advice. They'll live in the right sort of place with things that are there. The press will police themselves. You know, they'll know, particularly unless you get some of the more extreme paparazzi, but they don't operate as much around in this country as they do, because you know, we don't see them getting compromising pictures that often of William and Kate and their kids. We don't see them getting compromising pictures of, you know, lots of the other celebrities that are living around the country that are going to be subject to sort of similar sorts of threats. Yeah. So you know, I think they will be able to live safe here.
Do you think that will work out? Let's also talk about GCSEs. I mean, big day. I've still got lots of friends with kids who got, you know, doing the A-levels last week, the GCSE results. Very interesting. I mean, you know, the level 2 vocational stuff as well out for, this is Wales and England. I think Northern Ireland as well. Scotland, of course, already have they have the exam results early. Their school dates are very different. Lucy Powell, the Education Secretary, she's pledged, she says, to stop GCSE resits trapping pupils in failure. Basically, to move on to apprenticeships, move on to any level, you basically need what used to be a grade C, now a level 4 GCSE in 2 key subjects, English and in maths, English language and maths. And an awful lot of kids are failing that. They do a reset, basically got a 1 in 5 chance of passing it. So they kind of reset, but they can't move on and do something else. And saying, and I can see the argument. It's a good argument. You know, some kids who just can't do any of that academic stuff, let them go and do the other. That said, I also think this is, and again, she's somebody who's basically opposed to testing exams generally. She's just a classic lefty who thinks that, oh, it's a bit stressful for the teachers and the kids, so it can't be a good thing. What, finding out what kids know is a bad thing? There's a way of doing exams and tests of kids that doesn't have to be stressful. Everyone, I mean, the lunacy, the number of people I know who, I mean, I'm in a world where everyone's like obsessed with their exam results, but the number of parents who are like, well, obviously, I can't see you for the month of June or May because my child is doing their GCSEs or A-levels. I'm like, well, yeah, but your kid is. I mean, I wasn't planning to see the whole family on a Sunday afternoon. Like, are you not free for a drink on a Friday evening? Well, no, because my kids got A-levels. Like, are you doing their revision for them? I mean, frankly, I think your kid should be out on the Friday night and having a normal life between revising. I think a lot of people have lost their minds on this stuff, but I do worry that we are dumbing down, and any time things get a bit too hard and people fail, we dumb it down, as opposed to the answer, which is very clearly, and as it is with getting working class kids into good universities and things, is very simple. We need better teaching in schools.
Yes, well, better teaching in schools, or let's go back to, you know, a system that worked beforehand. Let's have O-levels, which are more academically focused, and certificate in secondary education, CSEs, that are different levels. And then we can stream children in a much better way rather than having them all in a big block, so that we can have teachers that those that are not as academically focused can focus on trying to bring people up to get the standards that are needed at a lower level. And we need to have a clear pathway to employment where it's not all about academics, and academics. So let's go back to O-levels, CSEs, the sorts of things that I remember whenever I grew up. It worked.
I mean, I just despair that the whole education system has got obsessed with, you know, league tables and rankings as opposed to let's teach kids as much as we can before they leave school, and then we'll find out how much they know, and that'll be useful information to either going on to university or apprenticeship or for an employer, and it's just become something completely different.
Yeah. And I know lots of people who have had appalling O-levels, CSEs, passed very few, and have gone on to be very, very successful in life.
Who not only have very interesting careers but also own a shed left more than honestly, I really do think
we put too much stress on kids at too young an age and don't give them outlets, and you let them recognise that you may not have matured to get in that particular bit.
And that is an issue with boys as well. There's always this ongoing thing, especially like, you know, girls at this level do better than boys and consistently, and people say, oh, you know, well, it's good girls doing better, and maybe girls were always clever. We have a very feminised education system. It's largely, I mean, certainly in primary school, it's almost entirely women. I think only 4% of teachers are male. Massive lack of male role models in homes and in schools. Secondary schools, again, an awful lot of the teaching is done by women, and it's just a very feminised way of learning, which is absolutely perfect, you know, for kids, you know, particularly girls. Like, oh, I'm going to do my coursework. I'm going to do, you know, and very sort of getting girls who respond to praise and to just getting on with things and longer attention spans in those years because they haven't got the testosterone bursts. And so I see kids the same as you. They're so different, male and female. I know. No, you can't tell the difference. They've been assigned one at birth. The difference is blatant, and it's in every cell in their body. Yeah. And actually, boys thrive on short spurts, competition, physical activity, and all of the things that actually really help boys to do well have been taken away from state schools.
Yeah, when I was in school, you know, my English teacher had given up on me being able to write because it was terrible. Yeah, I now do an awful lot of writing for a living.
You strike me as someone who would have done very well at school.
No,
that's very interesting.
And maths,
there you are, kids.
And maths, I struggled at. The first year of my degree course was nearly all pure maths. I did a degree in applied sciences, and therefore you mature at different levels. You get these understandings.
My favourite claim to fame is that I have a U, which means ungraded in German O level. I answered every question in my oral with the words "Ich weiß es nicht," which I don't know, and I wrote you have to write. You get like 8 pictures or 6 pictures, and it's like and you have to basically write the story about what's going on, showing basically as much as you know. I wrote it in English with EN on the end of every word to make it look German. I didn't want to do German O-level, and I was forced into it. Okay. And I thought I was making a very big stand for, I don't know what I was thinking, but it certainly made me chuckle. So I have a U grade. I'm old enough to have done O-level. I have a U grade O-level. Proud of it. Anyway, 11:25 is the time. We didn't get on to. We should in the next hour. The Cambridge Chancellor, Lord Smith, Chris Smith, is famous. You know, of course, we knew him as a Labour minister, but he said that Cambridge must uphold academic integrity in the wake of the Jason Arday tragedy. Allegations against dons must be rigorously and openly investigated. This is the man who only a few days ago was talking about. You know, again, the racially motivated mob sort of against Jason Arday, joining in all the madness, Lord Woolley and others calling it a lynch, playing along with all of that. How on earth do you think, Lord Smith, that you're going to uphold academic integrity if when anyone raises a question about someone who is not white, they are immediately blasted as a racist?
No, it's crazy, and this is where. You know, I feel sorry for everyone that's linked to it, but the people I don't feel sorry for are those that are woke in society that have enabled someone to be put into a position and to live that falsehood to get into the into position where they're held in esteem because
we should definitely hold people to account, and we should absolutely. But what we should also do, apparently, is we shouldn't hound people in any way whatsoever. That's terrible. We shouldn't ask questions. Shouldn't write articles about people.
Harry and Meghan.
Yeah, well, no, we shouldn't write articles about people who, when there are question marks over the qualifications they've had for a very highly esteemed job when they've been lauded for the last few years by the university and maybe the BBC. But apparently, it's totally acceptable to put out online lists of journalists who have written perfectly reasonable articles about Jason Arday and that subject, and for there to be really, really very blatant open death threats and urges for people to basically bring violence on those people. I mean, that apparently totally acceptable because, you know, they're on the side of good, not bad. And I'm genuinely, these people need to take a long, hard look in the mirror, and if they were really honest, they would not like what they see. And I know people are saying that to me. I'm very, very, very certain about my views, very, very certain about my facts and my opinions, and that they are the correct ones. And I have written nothing and said nothing about this case of which I am remotely ashamed, embarrassed, or would like to take back. Every single word I stand by, and every single newspaper and every single broadcaster should stand by exactly what they've said of this. And if you want to live in a country where people are basically threatened and accused of vile things like being a racist killer because they want to talk about facts, then we need to change a lot about this country. 11:28 is the time. We're going to take your calls. Coming up next, this is Talk.
I don't ever see either of those. I mean, that interview from 6 months ago, he said, what the people in that country have done to me. You basically called the royal family racist. You basically slagged off this entire country, and you disappeared off, took $100 million and have grifted ever since.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning, welcome back to the show. 11:31 is the time. Let's go straight to your calls. Colin is in Surrey. Colin, you want to talk about this insane booklet advising immigrants, asylum seekers, not to rape.
Yeah, good morning, Julia.
Morning.
I mean, say, plain devil's advocate, in a way, these politicians and civil servants treat people as stupid. But we must remember, just 1 week ago, 9,000 people voted for a man with a bin on his head. Yeah, seriously, you know, so they're thinking, yeah...
Clacton by-election, yeah.
Yeah, and of course it brings me to an old joke I heard from Tommy Cooper 50 years ago. He's dressed as a soldier on guard duty, and he shouts out, "Halt, who goes there, friend or foe?" The answer comes back, foe, and he says, "Pass, foe." This is exactly what this world's like.
That is a very, very good point. That is, yeah. I mean, do you think it'll change anything, this book? Or is it actually the fact that it's basically an admission that these men are a problem? Is that actually a good thing? Is that a starting point for sanity?
I think it is an admission that these people are very dangerous. I mean, say, I feel for women and girls, to be quite honest. I mean, so I don't fear for myself. No one's going to touch me. But women and young girls, they need to start doing self-defence lessons. And I really, really
But
mean
again, I mean, that'll be the next thing that the Home Office suggests, as opposed to we shouldn't be facing that extra risk over above any risk we already face. Colin, thank you for that. Appreciate that. That love a mention of the late, great Tommy as well. Let's go to Benjamin. Benjamin is in South Africa. Benjamin, you want to talk about the Royals. Very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well. Where are you in South Africa?
I'm in Johannesburg.
Wonderful. I am heading down your way at Christmas. We love South Africa.
Oh, come on through. No, I just wanted to call in and give some support for Meghan. I think.
Oh, they did not expect this call. There we go.
A lot of us are quite worried about her. I think regardless of whatever you think of her character, the decision that she's made is definitely compromising her safety. She's spoken a lot about her mental wellness, but also I think physical safety is at risk. And a lot of my friends here, I mean, I'm a guy, a lot of white South Africans do not support her. A lot of black South Africans do. And a lot of my South African friends are very concerned about her.
Again, I'm always fascinated by the divide on the black-white thing with Meghan. And again, people have just literally made it up in their heads that there was, certainly in the British press, any sort of criticism or attacks on Meghan because of the colour of her skin. It just simply did not exist. It simply did not. And if everyone looks back at, by the way, the coverage of Diana, Waity, Katie and Camilla and Fergie, all of whom were white, was pretty vicious. I mean, you can argue that it was too vicious against them as well. But so it's I've always found that fascinating. I do think also there's an element where she's she's an actress. They're always talking about their mental well-being.
Well, fair enough. But I mean, I think one of the most concerning headlines that we're looking at the moment is from the Daily Mail. They had said that Meghan and Harry's return is an epic humiliation, but then they went on to say, these two are dangerous. We should fear the twisted, real strategy behind their UK return. And I just feel like we're very worried that the press is going to stoke animosity against her. And again, I've already said she is a complex character. We understand legitimate criticism, but it does feel...
You think like it's going to be a bit of a witch hunt? Benjamin, have we lost you? Benjamin?
Have you lost?
Oh, yeah, we got you back. Do you think are you fearing there's going to be a witch hunt against her?
We are. Gosh, I say we. I'll speak for myself. I am concerned. It feels like there is a lot of stoking of animosity.
Yeah, I mean, I do think people need to get into perspective. I mean, she's not a criminal. I think she makes herself the victim. I think the issues. I think a lot of people, they did like her. People were very, very keen on her when she first arrived on the scene, and then a lot of people thought that she was not a good influence for Harry. A lot of people who really adored Harry. Look, I'm not even a royalist, so I couldn't care less. I'd rather couples didn't break up if they got young children. I have a strong preference for that. I think families matter. But she, this is a woman who has no relationship with her dad, only with her mother, no other relationships. She can't keep friends, as far as we can tell. She has, she struggles to keep even staff who are on the payroll. I think there may be personality reasons that have become evident about her that perhaps are the reasons why a lot of people don't warm to her. And the accusations of racism against the royal family, a lot of people are very protective in Britain about the royal family. So it may be that actually the press a lot of the media coverage is actually feeding off that public sentiment rather than the other way round?
Fair enough. But I think the one confusion I have is that her would have been mother-in-law, so Diana, was also a very complex character. She is incredibly protected by public sentiment and
not when
media
she was alive.
Well,
she is now because she's dead. She's a victim, and therefore she's not. Do you know what I mean? That's what she's seen.
So I suppose I'm tying it back to the Daily Mail article. Like, we know Diana was sitting with Piers Morgan, Richard Kay. They were getting a lot of ground off of their discussions with her.
Yeah.
And now they're dragging her son's wife. And I think we're just very confused about this. And yes, you're right. It doesn't necessarily need to be a race thing. But I think a lot of us are confused about why Meghan does not get the level of protection that Diana seems to get.
Well, she, according to Harry, Diana was hounded to death by the paparazzi, so she definitely wasn't getting that protection in her lifetime. But really interesting call, Benjamin. Thank you very much. Send our best to everyone down there in South Africa. 11:37 is the time. I'm going to take a quick break. Up next, going to be talking more about this absurd, terrifying leaflet telling asylum seekers not to rape and beat their wives and others. We're going to talk to the former head of UK Border Force. That's Tony Smith.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is Talk. I'm Julia Hartley-Brewer. 11:39 is the time. Let's talk to Tony Smith now, former head of the UK Border Force. Very good morning to you, Tony.
Morning, Julia.
I bet you can't guess what we're going to talk about, love. I mean...
Got a rough idea, Julia.
You must have been absolutely flabbergasted, as well as we all were, when we saw this extraordinary leaflet, Understanding Behaviours and Expectations in the UK, to be handed out, 7-page booklet, handed out to asylum seekers, illegal migrants, basically telling them not to rape, not to have sex with under 16-year-olds, not to basically coerce or threaten or beat or indeed rape their wives, not to pester people in the street. The fact that these people have to be told this extraordinary. Also, crucially, it's only in English, so what if they don't speak fluent English? But also, is this basically an admission of guilt by the Home Office? They've known all along that these men are a danger.
Yeah, so obviously there's two sides to the argument. I see what the Home Office are trying to do, Julia. What they're trying to do is to say we do tell people when they come into this country about expectations of behaviour, because clearly a lot of the ones that have been arrested, as you know, and gone to court, defence solicitors have said, well, yeah, but you know, Your Honour, you need to understand he didn't realise, he came from this country where it was all right to do some of these things. So I think their reasoning is that to now to be able to say, well, actually they are given information about our behaviours. They can't say they didn't know. Now, you know, we know ignorance of the law is no excuse anyway.
No, but also, as one of our callers pointed out earlier, if it's only in English, they'll just say, well, I couldn't read very good English.
So I don't know whether they've done it in different languages.
Apparently
I don't know whether they've been handed out. I don't know whether they're going to give it to everyone who's already here, or we're waiting for the next boat. I don't know that. I don't think any of us know that. But I'm just trying to explain why I think the Home Office might have done this, and I get that. But I think
it's a back-covering exercise.
But the bigger question, Julia, is for your viewers and listeners is, look, there is clearly now an acknowledgement, I think, from the department that at least some of these undocumented arrivals pose a risk to our community. Right? There is an acknowledgement that we're doing this because we know that some of them, not all of them, but some of them do come from countries where some of these things are at least passively acknowledged, if not okay. And therefore, there is a problem, isn't there? There is a problem that we are admitting into our country people that are a risk to the community. And then the question is, well, how do you mitigate a risk, right? I always dealt with risk mitigation when I was in charge of the border. If we've got a risk, is giving them a leaflet like this going to mitigate the risk? I don't think it is.
If only they'd handed out those leaflets to the grooming gangs in Rotherham and Rochdale and everywhere else, then we would never have had a problem.
Exactly, Julia. So the mitigation does not match the risk. The risk is much greater, in my view, now that we are, as you know, as we said many times before, receiving migrants, mainly male migrants from many, different countries, source countries, who are a potential risk to our communities, and they're landing in our communities within 24 or 48 hours of arrival. The Border Force, or Border Security Commanders they are now, have very limited time available to them, because otherwise they will be accused of unlawful detention. There aren't enough detention spaces to hold them, even if it was legally capable of doing that. And so there is real pressure on us to grant them temporary release, and that poses a risk. So what we need to reverse is that bit. Why is it that we are admitting undocumented migrants within 48 hours into our community? Why are they not all being detained, Julia? Now, I told you before, I was an immigration officer, I'm showing my age now, back in the 70s and the 80s. If it happened to me when I was an officer, they would be detained, Julia, indefinitely. And they would be removed on the first available ship or aircraft.
But that was when the numbers were far, far smaller.
Well, nobody claimed asylum. The asylum phenomenon only took off in the late 80s, 90s by judicial overreach. But at that point, in 71 Acts, I could detain them as an immigration officer under the authority of my chief. I could serve removal directions. If I didn't have a passport, I could issue a letter to a captain of a ship or aircraft to send them back, and another letter to wherever they come from saying, this person.
So what changed? Was it just the lawyers getting involved and just going, oh, OK, turns out we can play these human rights games and you can't be sent back to these god-awful countries? Because I think those god-awful countries were pretty god-awful then as well.
Yeah, that's what's changed, Julia, is that the law, the framework 50 years on is not what it was 50 years ago. Now, what I'm saying is, why can't we get back to the future? Why can't we just change? I mean, the 71 Act is still in force. We still have powers to do that, but they've been watered down to the extent now that asylum and human rights applications trump border control. Why can't we have the reverse? Border control on public and safety security and border security grounds trumps asylum and human rights laws, particularly, Julia, when the migrants concerned have chosen to come here without documents and have come from a country, France, which is perfectly safe, and they could, if they were really in fear of their of persecution, could claim protection in that country. That's I just simply cannot understand why we are not trying to get back to the future. All right, the numbers are greater, the pressures are greater, the world has changed, but in terms of the legal framework, we did it before. And I just would like to think that that would give people comfort to know that any undocumented migrant arriving on our shores would be detained and removed, and if not removed from the country, detained indefinitely until they could be removed, and at the very least never given temporary release into our communities if there is any chance that they pose a risk to women and girls or anybody else here, with psychology assessments and whatever else.
Exactly. But I mean, the Human Rights Act is constantly used, and the ECHR, but Article 8 is a crucial one, the right to a family life, life, privacy, and these people, we can't deport these people, which is why you can't detain them, because apparently we can't keep them in detention if we can't deport them, which is bizarre. But the bizarre thing is, there's one, basically this right to this family life and all this and privacy, but then the second paragraph, and I've gone on about this for years, but everyone seems to forget it even exists, like it just fell off the page. And it's basically, unless there is, any threat to national security, criminality, blah, 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 all of which is clear from these men. My question, as we were discussing Philip Ingram, again, the question is always, how many rapes is too many? What is the level of rape and sexual assault and harassment and poor treatment of women and honour killings and FGM? And what rate are we saying, or our authorities, the lanyard classes, saying this is the acceptable level? We'll put up with that before we deal with the actual problem. Because it seems to me that their level is way higher than yours or mine or anyone listening, because ours is none.
Yeah, I think we're saying the same thing, Julia, from a slightly different direction. Is that the legal frameworks under which we operate, is what I'm saying, have changed massively over the last 50 years. For a succession of legislation, High Court judgments, European Court judgments, so this is what's landed where we are, and that's why we can only do what we can do. So in order to reverse that, Julia, you have to pass laws. You have to change the law and give a very clear indication to the courts that this is our position. And you need a government that's going to be prepared to do that. And let's be honest, no government over years and years has been able to do that, despite many promises that they would have done that. And that's my concern, that I do hope that, at least in my lifetime, that we do see some reversal and we get back to the future, which was a proper border control.
Not under this government. Just finally, apparently, Shabana Mahmood, back from Holes, is talking about, she definitely agrees with this whole sharing people fairly out, the asylum seekers fairly out, which means everyone's going to have rapists. Well done. But also, apparently, she, along with the rest of Europe, are looking at this Rwanda-style scheme of somewhere, a hub to transport people to assessments rather than being in Britain. I mean, they got rid of the Rwanda scheme in July 2024, and now they're basically talking about a Rwanda-style scheme. This is absurd.
I told you before that I think the biggest political mistake of recent times was Keir Starmer standing on the cliffs of Dover saying that if elected, he's going to abolish the Rwanda plan. And he did, out of hand. I actually worked for the previous government as an advisor on the Rwanda plan. The legislation then didn't go far enough, I'm afraid, because it didn't deal with the human rights issues, even dealt with the asylum issues. But the Rwanda plan, I felt, was a very bold attempt, at least, to be able to remove people, because the big problem we got with most of these is we can't remove them. The French won't take them back. And Rwanda was prepared to accept them, Julia. They were prepared to give them sanctuary, whether they claimed asylum or not, come and live here. We want people to live here. And what did they do? They boshed it immediately on a political whim.
With nothing to replace it. And then we saw the numbers go up. Tony Smith, could talk to you all day on this. The voice of reason, former head of the UK Border Force. Thank you very much. Appreciate you joining us. Philip Ingram, listening to all that. Yeah, the Rwanda plan, I've consistently said the whole way through, it wasn't given a chance. And they never started. The Labour politicians that are in at the minute are the ones that were running interference and enabling their human rights to stop getting in, because they knew they wanted to try and make a political point on this. And now it's come back and bit them. So in the proverbial. 11:49 is the time. Quick break, then we're going to be talking to an executive head teacher at an academy trust about the latest GCSE results and indeed the Education Secretary's plan for an end to the sort of the constant resits that a lot of young people take. That's up next. This is Talk.
I don't ever see either of those. I mean, that interview from 6 months ago, he said, and what the people in that country have done to me. You basically called the royal family racist. You basically slagged off this entire country, and you disappeared off, took $100 million and have grifted ever since. And now you're back here because being faintly associated with the royalty, however tarnished that might be, is going to finance you and your family's lifestyle. To me, that's hypocrisy at its worst.
Yeah, absolutely, but that's never really worried them in the past. I mean, this is just another business opportunity. Things haven't worked out in the States.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
11:52 is the time. This is Talk. I'm Julia Hartley-Brewer. Let's talk GCSE results for lots of families. This is the big deal. Getting messages from my friends going, yeah, they're happy with their results. GCSE's big deal for getting on what you're going to do next. Now, thing is, if they go well, that's great. You're going to get into the sixth form, college sixth form to do the subjects you want or get onto the apprenticeship or course you want. However, for a lot of kids who do not make the grade, quite literally don't get the fours in particular, that's C grade in old money, but if you're as old as me, it's probably an E grade, let's be honest, in terms of grade inflation. I'm not just saying that for a fact, that is literally what they've shown. But we are looking at quite a lot of children who don't make those grades, particularly in the key subjects like maths and English. And basically, you can't go into the apprenticeship, you have to do a resit. Vast majority of those kids then fail the resit, probably for the same reasons they failed the first time. I would say largely a lack of good teaching is usually the issue. Lucy Powell, the Education Secretary, is now saying she wants to end all of that and basically change the way we do things. Let's talk about all of that with Mark Lehane. He's an executive head teacher at Wootton Academy Trust and he's a former special advisor at the Education Department. Mark, thank you so much for joining us.
Morning.
Thank you. It's interesting how much we're no longer with GCSEs and A-levels for having all these stories, which we did for years about grade inflation. I mean, the madness that happened in, 2020. And I'll just hand out A's to everybody, why don't we? And it carried on for a couple of years after that. But sanity seems to have largely been restored. But what do you make of what Lucy Powell has had to say about basically not requiring youngsters to get even the most basic decent grade in key subjects like maths and English to be able to do an apprenticeship?
So this is an old reliable that comes around every year because lots of people are very strong and mixed emotions about it. But the policy of insisting that students that don't get a grade 4 at their first attempt, age 16, the policy that they have to resit it is, in spite of the mood music, one of the most successful policies of the last 10 years, because it used to be only about 5 or 6% of kids that did a resit passed. It's now nearer to 20% for English. And so in this country, by the age of 19, about 83% of our youngsters have managed to achieve that level, and the doors that opens to them are phenomenal. Right. It means they can consider university, a high level apprenticeship, or if nothing else, it just all that grade 4 means in maths and English means they're really fluent and able to read comprehensively and write. Yeah. But also in terms of their maths, they can interpret a graph. Yeah. They can work out averages. And I'm a maths teacher, so I'm really passionate about this. But this is a massive success, this policy.
OK, that's fascinating, because, again, they say only 1 in 5 pass, but it used to be a lot less, so that's improvement. We know...
Sorry to jump in, but you've hit the nail on the head here, which is we need to put even more money, even more time into those youngsters who are disproportionately from poor backgrounds. We need FE colleges and sixth forms to be back to put their best teachers on the kids that have had a toughest time. And I think we should be really proud about how we've come. And I worry, as soon as we start saying, let's give them a different qualification or let's remove that requirement, we know what will happen. The most vulnerable youngsters will be the ones that miss out most. This is not kids at Eton or Harrow.
No, they ain't. Look, the top schools, whether they're the top state schools or the top private schools, their kids, it's the percentage of kids getting A's and A stars they're talking about, not the kids who are passing at that level. The thing is, I mean, this thing, often people go, well, if they haven't passed it, they're thick. I mean, we did used to have thick kids. Now we've got kids who are learning, developing. There are thick kids. I think we do need, there are kids who are very bright, there are kids who are very thick, there are lots of kids in between. The reality is, though, all kids, not all, virtually all children, apart from those with particular development issues, can actually get something of a grade. They can have some understanding and be able to achieve some of these things if they get the right teaching. And the reality is, we know in a lot of schools, certainly, I'm going back a very long time, but certainly in my comp, there was an element where kids at the bottom of the pile were just written off. unless you were like, what was it now? You got SEND, your statement, whatever the term is now, you're kind of just written off, and you get the supply teacher, and it's just basically it's crowd control rather than teaching. But actually, those are the kids that we really need to make sure get some sort of qualification 100%. So that they don't end up on the dole for the rest of their lives, on the sick, or moving into a life of criminality because they just feel they've been failed at school. And those are usually the kids who've got the parents who sometimes are illiterate themselves. They can't help them with their schoolwork.
And listen, like, we know there are a small but growing number of schools across the country. Often we'll always talk about Michaela. I'm going to be biased. My old school that I set up years ago, Bedford Free School, smashing it. Where I'm sat today at Wootton, I only started 2 years ago. Yeah. Results are going like that. Now we're doing the basics. We know that nearly every kid, not every kid, but nearly every kid, if you get A, B, C, D right, if they attend every day behaviourally well, get taught a brilliant curriculum and it's delivered in a wonderful way, there are large numbers of schools that are now showing nearly every kid can smash it out the park, and that's what we've got to aim for. So I totally get, though, if you've had a tough experience as a kid all the way through primary school and secondary school, the last thing you want to do when you hit year 12 or start an apprenticeship is do more maths and English. Yeah. But that's why it's on us in the system and as families to go, no, you're going to do. But also, there are lots of countries where kids are coming from much more impoverished backgrounds, you know, in China and places like that, where those kids are not failing to get these grades. Kids from much poorer backgrounds in Singapore and Beijing are getting better results than some of our richest kids with every possible advantage. A lot of it is down to what is actually happening in the classroom. Absolutely. Look, we know that if kids get a great diet, if they attend every day and they get a great diet in school whilst they're there, orderly classroom, lots of lovely teachers working them hard, being strict and making sure they do the work they need to, we know they can do it. Is that what you do at your academy, at your trust? That's what we're trying to do. I have to say, I've had double bubble today because both we've had GCSE results at Wharton Academy and we're delighted with how they've gone. Overall, things have gone up loads, so we're really chuffed there. But also, I'm a dad of 4 girls. I always have to mention that when I come on air. And daughter number 3 had her GCSE results today. Are you happy? And I could not be prouder. She's absolutely smashed it out the park. Wonderful. And what I want for my own kid and what you want for your kid is what we want for every kid, isn't it? That they can succeed. Oh, 100%, 100%. And it's just so vital. Mark Lehane, lovely to talk to you. Congratulations to your daughter, Executive Head Teacher at Wharton Academy Trust. Quick response from Philip. Well, isn't it telling that discipline in the classrooms, going back to basics, is the thing that ends up in good results? It's the same thing that works in every country that's a successful system. In every successful family, every successful parenting situation, everything, it's pretty much all the same stuff. Boundaries, discipline. Boundaries, discipline, routine, rule. I mean, just all the... And love and care. Yeah. But actually, these things, they work. They really do. So much more to talk about. We've got lots more top guests coming on all the big stories. Stay tuned. This is Talk.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good afternoon. Great to have your company. Very much appreciate you joining me. This is Talk, the home of common sense, with me, Julia Hartley-Brewer. Whether you're listening on DAB Plus Radio, watching on YouTube, all the other ways of listening and watching, great to have your company. As I say, go to my YouTube page if you've missed anything from the show, you want to look back. I mean, why not? Why not listen and watch the show twice? That would be weird, actually. That would be a bit stalky. Don't do that. The Julia Hartley-Brewer Show is the name of the YouTube page. Easy to find. No excuses not to find it. Hit subscribe and you never have to miss a thing. Coming up, we are going to, talk more about that extraordinary 7-page leaflet handed out to asylum seekers, illegal migrants as we know them, understanding behaviours and expectations in the UK, including, could you not rape people? Could you not rape women? Could you please not have sex with under 16-year-olds? Could you not beat your wives? That's pretty much what they're telling these people. But why are we having people roaming our streets at our expense, living in homes that we pay for, with being fed with food that we pay for, who are a threat to our women and children? Plus, Nigel Farage has warned Andy Burnham's his promise of a bed for every rough sleeper by Christmas, discussed that on the show yesterday, could attract more asylum seekers to Britain. No, you'd never guess, would you? And, of course, the small matter of the return of Harry and Meghan. Deep sigh now from Philip Ingram. There you go, he's been doing that all day. Philip Ingram, former senior military intelligence officer who wants nothing to do with that topic at all. Well, but I keep making him talk about it.
No, leave them alone. You know, Harry's coming back. His father's ill. He's started to make up with him again. Full marks to him for doing that. You know, he's still got mental health issues that I think are unresolved, need to be dealt with.
You're, as someone, as an ex-military man yourself, and you suffered from PTSD. Yes. You had massive. You've been very problems with depression and wanting to commit suicide even. And your concern is that he's actually got a lot of. I mean, not only as a child, he lost his mum at a young age, and in the public eye. But also has gone through something.
It's all built up on that, and you know he's served his country in the front line, and you know I think he's been exploited.
Who by?
Well, his wife to a degree, but she's done it from an American perspective, and all the advisors have been American. It's all about clickbait, it's all about selling stuff, it's all about doing things. And when he moved to the United States, you know, those immediate advisors around him were all those marketing people and others who
He never strikes me as someone who's remotely comfy being in the public eye at all. And he said he wanted a private life, and then it was like, whoa, not very private. But then he chose to write his memoir. No one made him do that.
Well, yes, but that's when you get into the American way, and he's living in California, and you know that's how people will behave in that area, because it's bringing the money in. There are choices, but you get pushed on a different path. We're looking at it through a British lens. We're not looking at it through an American lens, and you'd see it from a slightly different perspective.
Well, it does seem that the American lens hasn't led to quite the life that certain Duchess of Sussex wants. Absolutely fascinating. I want to hear your thoughts. Lots of you getting in touch about the Home Office handing out this leaflet to illegal migrants. I just think it's just unbelievably shocking. Certainly know what I'm going to be writing my song column about this week for reading in the paper tomorrow, or late night. I'll post it out on social media. But give us a call on that. Give us a call on Harry and Meghan if you want to talk about that. GCSEs, whatever. Give us a call. 03444 499 1000. Text the word talk in your message to 87222. Get in touch with us on X at talkTV. Calls are charged at the national rate. Text costs £1. Standard network rate message. Coming up, we will be talking to Dan Hodges, commentator at the Mail on Sunday, about that leaflet and indeed the shenanigans going on in reform. And we're also going to be talking to Norman Brennan about the latest knife crime statistics. And you know, always worrying. Falling crime volumes. Basically, we are looking at an overall decline in weapons offences, according to the ONS. Homicides at a multi-year low. Knife murders, knife deaths fell by roughly 26% nationally over the past year. Weapon seizures have gone up. So we will talk about that. Is it all good news? Because it just doesn't feel like it. Are our perceptions of crime very different from the reality? That's all coming up. Delighted to say right now we're being joined now by Talk's royal correspondent Rupert Bell. A very good afternoon to you.
Greetings from York, because I'm racing here for my other job. But then I got this morning. Obviously, everything seemed to go Harry and Meghan. Why can't they just leave us alone?
Do you know what I absolutely love? Now look at the camera rather than looking at the horses, Rupert.
Oh well, I'm sorry. I'll look at the camera.
Find out
for
where
you.
the little light is and look at the camera. I love that.
Oh,
If there's a win, if one of your winners come in, let us know during the conversation. Just for those of you who don't know, and if you're a TalkSport, you know that he's also a racing correspondent and darn good at that as well. What I love about you, Rupert, as you always know, is how much you kind of just don't like talking about the royals for a royal correspondent. One of my favourite things I've done in my 10.5 years at this station is forcing you, and I think you took danger money, forcing you to watch Meghan's series about, I don't know, I think it started with beekeeping or something. I lasted, I think, 4 minutes before I just went, I literally can't do this. I would rather gouge out my own eyes than actually put up with this. And we made you watch, I think, all 4 episodes before you came on the show. And I'm not sure you've ever forgiven me.
I haven't, and I think there were more. There were more than 4. It was, thank you, Julia. But life has moved on. But for Harry and Meghan, it shows, I think, the American dream has gone horribly pear-shaped for them. And that's the reason why he's come back, maybe for sensible family reasons. I think Harry misses the UK, even though he's short of them, actually, because Meghan did her very best to cut him off from all his friends. And I think he got lonely. Now, how did he persuade her to come to Britain when she's been so anti this country, but what she has been saying and some of the statements that she's made since Megxit is an interesting one. And what is the reason?
Let's go through them. I want to go through them because, first of all, a lot of people online were saying, look, does this tell us that there is something we don't know about the King's health, and that actually, after that meeting a few weeks ago, that no, the King was only informed on Sunday since that meeting with Harry and seeing his grandchildren for the first time in years. I mean, he hadn't seen Lilibet since she was a baby. She's 5 years old. That maybe there are concerns that the King's health is not what it was, not as a result of the cancer. I mean, again, total speculation for people online, but I'd love you to address it. You're very well connected in royal circles, and that is why Harry wants to move back. Is that something that might be an option?
Well, we obviously don't know what the King's health is, and we shouldn't know.
No,
but
obviously, I understand that.
And obviously, but the Queen has alluded to the fact, that it has been difficult, and that she's, having her husband with cancer, like many other people, and that it's not easy. And look, he is 78 now, so his health is always going to be a question. But I think there is more at play here than just coming back. I think what he sees is that his long-term game will be to once again be back within the royal fold. Now, that I don't think is anything William wants to happen anytime soon, because I think there is an awful lot of bad blood between them as a result of Harry's actions, and particularly some of the things that has been said about him. So
the accusations of racism against a senior member of the royal family, we never found out who it was, but the fact that William and Kate ain't speaking to him anymore, I wonder if that, and that people were very troubled by that. And as the late Queen so amazingly wonderfully put it, recollections may vary. Certainly Harry's version and Meghan's version, even in that same Oprah Winfrey interview, she was saying it's happened when she was pregnant. He'd said it happened a couple of years earlier. So speculation, I mean, I'm married to a ginger guy, so, there was speculation about that. But there's also been the fact that the heir to the throne, William, and his wife, we understand, have not spoken or seen Harry since the late Queen's funeral. There's been no contact, we understand. When he was last in the country, they did not meet. Their children have not met. So I think the children actually may not even have met, I think, at some point. So some of the younger ones. Is there any chance whatsoever of a reconciliation there? Because the idea that there would be the 2 royal princes' brothers in the country, one a full working royal is going to inherit the throne, the other non-working royal but living somewhere, I don't know, the Cotswolds or wherever, but not working, but nevertheless perhaps invited to family events. That creates a whole raft of difficulties that weren't there when they were over on the other side of the world.
Yeah, it's a complicated family dynamic that has been created by this move. And particularly when you think there was for Meghan, who knows, I think, that she has to come back to try find a way of reconnecting with the royal family, because her brand is entirely dependent on it. And that's the problem. And that's what leaves the royal family deeply suspicious, probably, of anything they do, because there always seems to be an ulterior motive. Now, does that mean we're going to see rows of gloopy jam now on farm shops the length and breadth of the country as she hawks as ever spread? You know, what is the motive here? And now their children are being educated here. It suggests to me that Montecito life has not been as good as they cracked up to be.
If that had all gone as well, I mean, the thing is, they said they didn't want to leave. She didn't feel welcome. She felt there'd been racism and she hadn't got the support mentally. And I imagine, again, I've always thought being a role, I do not wish it on anyone, certainly not the children be born into it and have no choice. But I think that, you know, she married her prince. She'd been a bit part, let's face it, a slight no-mark actress in an adequate series. But you know, and basically she was suddenly this massive international star, being feted everywhere. And then suddenly she was having to curtsy to her sister-in-law and deal with the palace flunkies not changing a light bulb the second she asked for it. And frankly, it wasn't the life that she thought she'd signed up to. They move away apparently for privacy, and he's very angry and hurt and upset, big fallings out. Then they basically sold their whole life. That Netflix series, his book, every interview, Oprah interview, basically threw a grenade into the royal family. The royal family kind of regrouped and carried on. There were, I mean, the book, you know, revealing private moments, messages, fights with his brother. I think the message we are getting, I don't know any of these people from Adam, that actually that is something that William will, that the shutters are down and they're down for life now. He will never forgive that. But this is the thing, if life was going so well in California and the Netflix series were being, oh yeah, another one please, and there was another book in either of them, and he's told every story he's got, if there were, you know, the Spotify deal was going better, if basically they were on the A-list, they were being invited to presidential this and Hollywood that, and they weren't basically slipping down into D-list laughing stock, which is where they've been going, they would still be in Montecito.
They would. And we also got to take, not only that, but why suddenly the security issues for Meghan suddenly disappeared out the window? And actually, and, you know, OK, lost the court case, but now suddenly it's all right. The model that they have to adopt is the Zara Tindall and Mike Tindall model. Yeah. They are members of the royal family, but they lead a completely life separate. OK, we see Zara at family occasions and we know her connections, and we see her at various things. But they operate on a commercial basis. They run their life. Mike Tindall and Zara Tindall have very successful sort of commercial operations to fund their lifestyle. And that is the model. We don't hear any, we see them, but they just get on with their life.
But interestingly, very popular characters. I mean, Mike Tindall, obviously popular, you know, long before as a sportsman, long before he was with Zara. But also, crucially, very interesting, their mum, Princess Anne, that she did not want her children to have the titles. Now, Meghan and Harry, very keen for their kids to have the titles. They are Prince Archie, Princess Lilibet. She and Meghan and Harry still like their HRHs. They still like Duke and Duchess of Sussex, which I think is very interesting. But this is it. For me, I think this is getting those kids on that Buckingham Palace balcony. She needs to have this, the royal stardust, that link again, to kind of to be a somebody. You know, her plans, her career, her plans for maybe, you know, running as a Democratic senator or governor or whatever. I think that's all now. She's given up on all of that, and all she's got left is the royal link. But here's the thing. Are we in danger of this absolute division that we've seen on lots of topics recently, where there's the pro-Meghans, there's the anti-Meghans, and everything is blamed on Meghan? Because this whole idea that Prince Harry, who fought for his country, he's his own man, that everything he's doing is all being controlled by nasty, nasty Meghan, as opposed to he's a fully grown man, he's in his 40s, isn't he, for goodness sake, that he can make his own choices, and he's doing things of his own volition, and they're doing things as a couple, and she's not to blame for everything. There is an element where people put her in this Lady Macbeth role.
Well, yes, and to some extent there's due cause for that. But yes, presumably he had to persuade his wife and say, look, we're upstate, you know, there must have been a lengthy conversations about what they're going to do next. And for me, Harry is desperate now to reconnect, because his life, he's a rudderless 40-something. He's got nothing. Invictus Games, he's had all these fallouts from charities. He is desperate now to reconnect. Where they're going to live? Well, it might be the Cotswolds, to be near Soho Farmhouse, or, you know, enjoying the sort of Beckham, Chipping Norton set, or could be near Northampton. But fair play to them. They managed to do this with a degree of secrecy, finding a school for the children.
Extraordinary.
And which is, that says good. But can they keep their mouth shut now when they come back? And what will Harry, he will try and think he's going to go to various functions when he gets back, launching Invictus Games, also Well Child, which he's very much part of. So we'll still see him in his sort of quasi-royal world. And this is where the lines will get blurred.
Yeah.
Because it will still seem like he is a working member of the royal family, but he's not.
No.
And and the royal family have to make sure there is a clear delineation that he's acting in a private capacity.
Yeah, and now you know as well as I do, there are often deals done between the media and the royals in terms of privacy. OK, you can have the photo on the first day of the holiday and then you leave us alone. And the British media abide by that. There are very strict rules about these things and, you know, deals and you know, and it's a quid pro quo. Not so with the foreign paparazzi. Are we looking at, you know, issues in terms of the children? I mean, I don't know whether it's easier in California. Maybe they're just, you know, they've got the armed guards or whatever. They're not going to be able to be armed here. Does that pose issues?
The security issue is obviously something that in Harry's and Meghan's mind they've managed to resolve. I mean, how many more shots? How many more shots of the back of the head of Archie and Lilibet are we going to have to endure? Because that's what they seem to do on their Instagram account. And for instance, George will be going to Eton. Inevitably, we will see shots of his first day at school, because that is almost like a historical document of his life.
He is a future king.
Yeah, so therefore it makes sense. But then there won't be any more. And we've seen very little in terms of anything out of the school that those children are at now.
And William and Harry were given, you know, again, again, remember the only media organisation that bothered William during his university days even was his own uncle, Edward's firm.
Well, exactly. So therefore, it does look to me, I'll just put my earphones so I can hear you back in. I'm getting so excited about talking about it. You've riled me up.
I was going to say, you're enjoying it a bit too much. I'll let you finish your point.
But the point is, now they're back, will it be something that the royal family they can manage it?
Yeah.
For me, I think Meghan, who basically, since she stood on her own on our wedding day, her star has plummeted. Because that was the moment that she had the whole world at her feet.
Yeah.
But even then, the seeds and the rumblings began to emerge. And within 18 months, they're gone. But what has brought about the sea change that she suddenly feels that Megxit no longer is relevant and now she wants to come clambering back? It's quite right. As you say,
it's called remigration. That's what it's called, remigration.
Oh.
There's your word for the day. I knew you'd hate that. Rupert Bell, you get back to watch... I knew you'd hate that. You get back to watching the horses. Talk's royal correspondent, Talk Sports racing correspondent also. Gotta love. Mind you, the Queen, it's all about the late Queen, it's all about the horses. Philip, come back on the security issue.
Mm-hmm. Well, on the security side of things, I think Harry has accepted the fact that there's a process here and the process will be applied equally to him. And it's based, as I said, on threat, vulnerability and impact. And it applies for all royals. There's an executive committee that looks after all royals and VIPs. And we saw Keir Starmer, when it came to VIPs, it's not just those that are associated with public body. He got the committee to look at Taylor Swift and she got an escort out to her concert. That Keir Starmer got some free tickets for that and everything else.
Very interesting. Fair point. 12:20 is the time. We're going to take your calls up next. This is Talk. 0344 499 1000 is the number to get in touch. Coming up very soon, Dan Hodges from the Mail on Sunday on migrants and Jason Arday and you name it. That's coming up. This is Talk.
I don't ever see either of those. I mean, that interview from 6 months ago, he said, and what the people in that country have done to me. You basically called the royal family racist. You basically slagged off this entire country, and you disappeared off, took $100 million and have grifted ever since. And now you're back here because being faintly associated with the royalty, however tarnished that might be, is going to finance you and your family's lifestyle. To me, that's hypocrisy at its worst.
Yeah, absolutely, but that's never really worried them in the past. I mean, this is just another business opportunity. Things haven't worked out in the States.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is Talk. I'm Julia Hartley-Brewer. 12:23 is the time. Let's get straight to your calls. And I'll ask you to call in anything and everything. In particular, actually, this extraordinary leaflet for migrants and illegal migrants, basically telling them not to rape. And Philip Ingram's going to get very upset because I've got two calls I want to get to, and they're both about Harry and Meghan. He's going to have a little bit of a nap. We're going to behave. Marion is on the line. Marion is in Norfolk. Marion, Philip's cross because you want to talk about Harry and Meghan. What do you want to say?
First of all, I'm embarrassed that was more important to talk about than any of the other issues that's been talked about this morning. But anyway, as far as Harry wanting to come back, because of the speed of which they are coming back, makes me think that he has a visa problem. And I know this because I'm a dual citizen, and I know that when you fill out forms for visas, depending on what type of visa you're applying for, you always get a good character form, and you have to declare on that form what you've done wrong. You know, if you've been a bad person, etc. Like, have you been involved in a terrorist group? Have you taken drugs? And so on and so forth.
And had you, Marion? Had you?
No, of course not. I'm 80 years older. I was a good girl. Anyway, when it came out in his Spare novel, book, he shot himself in the foot, basically. And because America is very much engaged in getting rid of people who are violating their visas.
And he admitted to quite extensive drug use.
Yes, indeed. And the speed of it, depending on what type of visa you've got, if it's withdrawn, cancelled or whatever, some of them you have to leave within 24 hours. You have to be on the next boat, plane, whatever, out of there. Some of them will give you a 60-day window to leave. Yeah. He may have got an arrangement because of who he is. I hate to say that he can get out of there by.
Well, Donald Trump was supposed to be looking at it at one point, wasn't he? Because people were saying, we want to find out, did he lie or was he open and honest, and had he been given special dispensation?
Exactly, and a lot of that document that was released was redacted. So why would they redact it?
Well, again, these tend to be private documents, what you've written on these personal forms. But I think there was an argument for that. But we didn't learn. Again, and why should the rules be different because you're a royal prince as opposed to anyone else? You know, that you could argue.
Yeah.
So you reckon that there might be an argument. We will look into that.
Well, and the other reason, of course, I think he desperately wants to come back and be part of the royal family again, and the fact that his father is ill. Yeah, that's the other reason.
It's the only world he's known until then. Yeah.
The speed of which it's happening is what made me think that.
Yeah, so. You can understand this was in the making before. I mean, we don't know what we're being told is true or not. But I don't think parents of a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old looking at schooling just make a random decision sometime in the middle of July or August and enrol their kids at schools and move back. I don't think that's how these people live. But there we are. Marion, great call as always. Thank you very much. Bob is in Liverpool. Hello, Bob. What do you want to say?
Good morning, Julia.
Good morning. Afternoon.
Afternoon, true. The only reason they're coming back is Mr. Justice Nicklin must be about to release his actual judgment on costs.
Oh, and this is related to the last case where Harry and various other celebrities lost to the Mail Group.
Correct. And he could be on the hook for £24 million.
Now, there's a huge sum of money. The costs are absurd in these cases. My understanding, though, was that in that case was that actually costs were covered. There was some insurance or something that covered those costs?
No, the insurance, it depends on whether the insurance underwriters believe the actual advice that was given. Oh. Mr. Justice Nicklin did actually say in court Are you really sure you want to continue with this?
Ah, you think, right, that's, yeah.
And the insurance underwriters will drop them like a hot brick.
Well, hold on a minute, though, but whether the cost... I mean, look, apparently they're keeping their mansion in Montecito. They're keeping their place in Portugal. Let's face it, that'll be... I mean, Portugal's a wonderful country. But a lot of people are moving to Portugal because for tax reasons. They're offering very lucrative... tax-saving residency deals to people to come over there. And they're going to have this place here in the UK and put the kids into school. If you can afford... I mean, anyone who can afford those 3 properties isn't worried about their finances.
But they may actually have to put them up for sale.
Do they own the Montecito home? Did they buy it already? I mean, God, I don't know or care. Why am I even asking myself this? I'll tell you who definitely doesn't know or care, Philip. But that you think this is about money? Because I think this is about wanting to be somebody's, and they failed in New York, in California, and they're coming back here to try their hand back at being sort of royals.
Well, maybe they could move in with Uncle Andrew at Sandringham.
Naughty, Bob, naughty. Bob, thank you very much indeed for that call. 12:28 is the time. Philip?
Whatever reason they're coming back, it's probably multiple reasons. There's a number of different things. Meghan reinventing herself. The visa one is an interesting one. I hadn't thought of that. That could well be.
That's why we take the calls. They know what they're talking about.
A big motivation. And I think reconciliation with his dad, and his dad is 78 years old and has got cancer. And the comments that Her Majesty the Queen has come out with in the last few days have suggested it's been more severe than even we had speculated.
Well, we just don't know. We literally just don't know. Yeah, people have a right. Whoever you are, you have a right to privacy about your health.
And a son's got a right to reconcile with his dad.
12:29 is the time. Up next, we're going to be talking to commentator at the Mail on Sunday, Dan Hodges, about all the big stories. This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good afternoon, welcome back to the show. 12:31 is the time. Philip Ingram's still with me. We shuffled him along to squeeze in Dan Hodges, commentator at the Mail on Sunday, who has joined us in the studio. A very good afternoon to you. Great to have you here. We nearly always end up going hammer and tongs. Let's keep it nice. Let's keep it nice. I'm going to have to ask you about the Harry and Meghan thing, just briefly, because we've just been talking about it, and also because the Prime Minister, Andy Burnham, who's been talking about waste dumps today and trying to tackle that. Amazingly, he's not also going to put all the waste on buses, because normally everything he announces is about buses. But he said the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, their planned return to Britain, he says, is a private matter, when he was asked by reporters whether the government would pay for their security, suggesting whatever security arrangements have or have not been resolved, suggests they ain't been resolved to the extent of, they're going to get royal level security. What do you make of that?
I've got to be completely honest, I genuinely don't care.
Philip is going to kiss you with joy for that answer.
Honestly, I understand how other people get excited about it. I have no interest. I mean, the only thing I would say is, you know, I remember when everybody was getting excited by the fact they were going to go off to, I think they were going to go and live in Canada, weren't they, at one point? That was going to be a big thing. No, I mean, look, so long as it doesn't cost the taxpayer a penny...
Don't care.
I don't care. Good luck to them.
OK. There you go. He's told you. He's told you. Let's talk about, I think we can all agree, much more important things, and that is the huge number of arrivals that we've had. Yes, it's gone down by 40% in the last year. No one seems to be quite sure why, though. The arrivals of illegal migrants claiming to be asylum seekers on our shores, arriving on dinghies. A few weeks ago, 230 on one dinghy. We've got some 200,000 of those people, largely young, fighting-age men who are in the country. We have seen a spate, huge number of assaults, sexual assaults, rapes, abuse of children, harassment that has been going on. And when people have been speaking about it, frankly, everyone's been telling them, oh, you horrible racist bigots, what are you talking about that for? So it's been quite an interesting thing to see the Home Office yesterday releasing this pamphlet, Understanding Behaviours and Expectations in the UK, a guide for asylum seekers, which is basically saying, yeah, you can't rape in this country, even if you're married to the woman. You can't have sex with children under 16. That is a serious crime here. You can't sexually harass or touch or shout at people. You can't abuse or beat your wife. You can't control women if they want to go out to work or go to study and the like. And women can marry who they choose. What do you make of the Home Office feeling the need to put out a leaflet telling asylum seekers not to commit some of the most heinous crimes?
Yeah, I've seen the sort of the backlash against this. Again, I'll be completely honest. I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer that they put out a document like this. I mean,
what way? Someone needs to tell these men.
Well, firstly, obviously, people who are coming to this country from outside of this country, first of all, they need to know what the age of consent is. I mean, that is obviously a no-brainer. In terms of the broader stuff, and it seems to me the document is dealing with issues such as issues in relation to consent, in relation to coercive control, in relation to domestic abuse. The information contained within that document, it seems to be, is information that the government, the police, other bodies regularly put out in a broader debate and discussion that we have in this country every year, directed at Indigenous British men. So, like the issues in relation to coercive control. It's only over the last couple of years that coercive control, as is currently codified, has even become an offence.
Well, we did a few years ago. I remember quite a few years back, students arriving at certain universities, male men were basically told, you are required to attend a don't rape women class. So you're saying, look, this is just simply informative and helpful.
I think it's more than informative and helpful. I think it's absolutely necessary.
Absolutely necessary. Is it not an admission by the Home Office that these people, largely young men, have been a problem, are a problem, will continue to be a problem? The ones who are going to be dispersed, as the Prime Minister and indeed the Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood has said today, fairly across the nation, are a threat to the women and girls and boys of this country.
But as I said, literally, as we were just saying, I think the reality is that unfortunately there is a broader problem of educating young men and men in general about how
I think most young men know not to rape and know that a woman can go and study, or I think most men in this country know what the laws and norms are. Some cultures, some communities, perhaps living in parallel existences, don't perhaps accede to those, but that we talk about that a lot, and we're told we shouldn't because all cultures are equal, aren't they, Dan?
Yeah, but well, firstly, fortunately, most men do know that. But unfortunately, a small minority of men don't. You've just given the example about the lectures that take place,
which I thought were outrageous. By the way.
Well, but I mean, the reality is, young people will be going back to university and college in a few weeks. They will all receive information about what the nature of consent and appropriate behaviour is, and there is an ongoing. You know, we on this programme, you and I and others, debate these issues on a daily basis. So I mean, I was looking at, like, part of the advice is, you know, it's not culturally appropriate to whistle at women or, you know, catcall at women in the street. Now, we have massive debates about this, about, is that being a little bit
That's a small part of this. I mean, we are talking... I don't think most men in this country need to be told that both people must consent to sex. I don't think most people in this country need to be told that hitting, pushing, kicking or any other physical harm of your partner is not acceptable. I don't think most men need to be told that, because they've been raised in this country and they know what the law is. They also know what is right and wrong. The reality about this is we are importing men, and the Home Office has basically admitted it, coming from cultures which are very alien to us. A lot of these cultures have a much higher rate of criminality when they are here. We know all that. The government is legally trying to, spending our money fighting legally against exposing, you know, publishing the criminality rates of different nationalities. You know, we know they're vastly different from different countries because of that cultural difference. And we are importing these men, and when they arrive, we are basically giving them a home, we're giving them food and board, and then we are putting them either in hotels or now in bed sits and flats around the country, apparently distributed now fairly around the country. Okay, but the government is admitting, are they not, that these men don't share our values and they are a potential threat.
But a couple of things. Let's just say, I don't disagree with you on the broader issue of small boats, immigration generally, right? And you know, we're broadly in the same place on that particular issue. So let's take the example you just said about, you know, cultural differences. Men don't understand how to properly engage with women in this country, and the cultural differences.
No, they think that women are second-class citizens.
Okay, so on
a woman who's not covered up is fair game and basically a whore.
So on that, fine. So
let's be honest.
Fine. So on that basis, do you think we should stop men from Saudi coming into this country?
Unless they are going to be obeying our laws and understand our laws.
No, not their laws.
I think there's a very strong... I think there's a very, very strong argument.
Julia, you just gave the classic example, and I'm just saying, do you think men from Saudi? Now, you're not going to say yes.
Am I? No. You've asked me the question, let me answer.
I will.
I think there's a very strong argument that we should treat the countries and the people arriving from the countries and their ability to access visas to this country, who treat women as second-class citizens, in the same way we treated South Africans under apartheid, where it was not acceptable for black people to have lesser rights than white people. Why do we think it's OK for women to have lower rights?
So should we let those men in?
I think there is a perfectly strong moral argument for that.
Yeah, so should we let those men in?
We should say we don't have dealings with countries where women don't have equal rights.
No, but should we let men into this country?
Well, then that would be we wouldn't be offering visas to those men. I would say. I mean, I don't care how much money Saudi Arabia has. I don't want to have anything to do with a country that doesn't have equal rights.
No, but should we let those men in?
I'd probably argue no.
OK, fair enough. But I don't think...
I probably would, actually, yeah. I don't see what the moral difference is when it's women or if it's black people.
No, that's fine.
We either think these things are wrong or right.
Julia, if you're advocating a ban on Saudi men coming into the United Kingdom, that's fine, and you at least are adopting a consistent position.
I'm of the view, certainly, that countries from where we are having a huge problem with criminality and abuse and an inability to, or refusal to apply our social laws, those countries should not be handed visas like sweeties.
So you're saying they shouldn't. That's fine. Let me give you another example. When Donald Trump stops becoming...
Who's interviewing who?
No, but we're having a discussion. When Donald Trump stops becoming president of the United States, becomes a private citizen, we all see him saying he thinks it's appropriate to just grab a woman by the pussy.
Yeah, I think it's disgusting.
Should he be allowed in?
If under our laws, if you've got a criminal record for such a thing, but I think you'd have to have a criminal record in that scenario.
No, but you're talking about cultural
differences. But we're not talking. No.
You're saying we don't want people in this country who have cultural differences.
Well, it's like America. It's like America's rules about America doesn't letting people with certain criminal records. I think we should be rather strict on that, but I think we should also have some blanket policies where we are unable to deal with the issue of large numbers of men from certain countries who will not, cannot, refuse to obey our laws, that we do not allow those people into our country.
I don't think anyone thinks that people who are not prepared to obey our laws should be let into this.
No, they do. No, the Home Office, they literally had to do a leaflet They literally had to do a leaflet to tell those men once they'd let them in.
No, the leaflet is explaining what the laws of the country are.
And giving a little waggy finger and telling them not to do it. But
No,
the
it
point
doesn't
is,
give a
these
waggy
people...
finger.
It is.
The
The whole
document-
tone of it is a, don't do that.
Julia, the
Rape's bad. Don't rape, please.
Julia,
Yes, it is.
The document says that if you break the laws of this country, you will face very severe penalties.
No, it doesn't say that at all. It says you could lose. You could. See,
Well, if you're convicted, yes.
Yeah, but exactly, you could, but they won't. They won't, a lot of them. Is this not an admission that a lot of these men are dangerous and they shouldn't be in our country? And if they are in our country, they should absolutely be kept behind bars in deportation camps.
I think it's a recognition. I think the government is facing up to something which other people have focused on, which is there are cultural differences here, and we need to be very clear to people coming into this country that they need to abide by our laws and by our culture. This is where I'm bemused at the criticism here. You know, we had a period for a long time when the government, particularly people on the left, would not acknowledge this and said we should respect cultural differences. We should say to people from other cultures, come on, they've got a different culture to us, let's just let it go, we've just got to accept that and we've got to suck it up. Now the government is actually saying, no, we're not going to suck it up, we're going to be very clear, we're going to tell people what the cultural difference is.
Girls and women who are being sexually harassed and raped and sexually assaulted, the ones sucking it up.
But that's the whole point of this document. This document is intended.
Do you think that if this document had been handed round kebab shops in Rochdale and Rotherham over the last 20 years, that all those girls would have been saved from being gang raped every night?
Well, that's a different issue. I think we're now.
Well, they would have been told that it wasn't acceptable, so that would have worked, right?
No, but that's going back to exactly the point I'm making. That they weren't told that, and they should have been told that.
They didn't know it wasn't okay to anally rape a 14-year-old.
No.
Oh, they just didn't know, Dan.
No, of course people knew rape was wrong.
But if they'd been given this leaflet, then they wouldn't have done it, right?
Julia,
I don't understand. It either works or it doesn't.
Okay, but now we're moving on to a different thing.
It's a magic leaflet. It stops rape and sexual assault.
No, hang on a second. So now you're moving away from what do we do about asylum seekers to what do we do about people in this country who are British citizens who were
No, but you're saying that
behind...
they've given... You're saying the problem is they don't know, so you give them advice they do know.
I'm not saying the problem isn't they don't know. I'm not saying the problem.
You're saying the Home Office is doing the right thing because they're now informing them.
I'm saying part of I think a huge part of the problem in relation to the grooming gangs is for too long the authorities said we have to accept cultural differences. We have to accept.
That was the reason why they weren't stopped and prosecuted.
And there's another culture over there.
That wasn't the reason why the girls were originally being gang raped.
No, but it's why they're it's one of the reasons why they're prosecuted.
This leaflet wouldn't have stopped them being gang raped.
No, it was one of the reasons why they were gang raped, because their perpetrators were allowed to continue their crimes because they weren't arrested and charged because the authorities said we have to respect cultural differences. Now we've got a government. This comes back to the conversation we have. Here we've got a situation where the government is actually saying no, that was wrong. We had two-tier. We accepted that. We accepted that. We tried to say there were two cultures. We're now accepting we can't say that. We have to be very clear. There is one law and one. I
want to move on to another topic because time is against us, as it always is. But Nigel Farage has criticised Andy Burnham's pledge. It was actually, of course, made first pledge of his premiership, wasn't it? When he arrived at number 10, and he said, "I'm going to go inside now, and I'm going to abolish, rough sleeping." A lot of us thought, "Oh, I'm not sure you are." Announcement this week that basically they're going to offer everyone who is... Well, Angela Rayner got caught when she was talking about it as Housing Secretary between homelessness, which is very different from rough sleepers, but basically everyone was going to be offered a home and obviously all the wraparound help and the mental health problems and alcohol. And they're not pretending that just putting a roof over people's head will change things. But Nigel Farage has said, look, this pledge to house the homeless will basically attract more migrants to this country because more people who are currently sofa surfing will end up going, well, I'm going to be a rough sleeper because I will then go to the top of the queue for this housing. No one's quite sure where this housing is actually coming from, given the queues of mums with young children living in bedsits in one room at the moment. Is that a fair criticism from Nigel Farage?
Of course it's not. It's a ridiculous... I mean, it's part of the example. Why? Because the Prime Minister of the country says we have a real problem with rough sleeping. I am pledging to tackle and eradicate it, and Nigel Farage turns around and says you can't do that because it might attract more. It might.
But he's saying your solution to the problem is going to make the problem worse. It's a fair criticism.
Well, look, let's see. As with everything else, let's see if Andy Burnham delivers. I mean, I think Andy Burnham's going to find that a much more difficult.
Well, when he did it in Manchester, and the numbers of rough sleepers actually went up, and the argument that was given, and Andrew Rayner made that argument this week, which was that word got round. Apparently, everyone's on their mobile phones in the rough sleeping community. Word got round, and many other cities, that rough sleepers in Manchester were getting homes and were getting help. So rough sleepers came from other cities to Manchester. What is to stop that from happening? People coming from abroad.
Well, obviously, if that happens, then Andy Burnham will not meet his pledge. But the idea that we should all say we are going to accept rough sleeping.
I don't think those are the only two options.
Well,
we do what Andy Burnham has suggested.
Well, what's the other option? Andy Burnham's saying he wants to eradicate rough sleeping. Now, your argument is if he is seen to be eradicating rough sleeping, that will attract people from abroad.
There are different ways of going about it. One would argue. He's had Lord Bird on the show, and he's someone who's been a rough sleeper, founded the big issue, and giving people a roof over their head isn't actually the actual. That's a symptom of the problem rather than the problem. But if
your argument is that by being seen to eradicate rough sleeping will attract people into this country, then the only way you prevent that is to allow the rough sleeping to continue.
Well, no, I think it's how one goes about it in terms of the care that people are given, but whether that is given or what can be given with people on the streets or not is another matter.
I thought the argument is if rough sleeping is eradicated, that will be a...
No, I don't think that is his argument. I think what Nigel Farage has said is what he is offering is rough sleeping is not just about someone not having a home.
I think rough sleeping is a scourge, and if the Prime Minister is pledging to tackle that, that's a positive.
Well, I mean, it'd be nice if he tackled some of the things that affected perhaps the other 70 million of us. That would be good as well. Can I ask you wrote a very interesting piece in the Mail last week about, you reckon there will be a 2027 general election. There'll be this Burnham bounce. He'll want to go early. The Farage, the Clacton by-election shows he's peaked. Reform has peaked. Yeah. The pressures on this $5 million gift from this crypto billionaire in Thailand, it's all adding up and things aren't looking good. It's notable, actually, there was one poll. I mean, who knows how these things go. Reform creeping a little bit back up again. But we've basically got Labour, Reform and the Tories now clustered around the same mark. Why are you so sure that there will be a general election? Because I would have thought that a Labour Prime Minister would be wanting to be a heck of a lot further ahead in the polls to risk calling an election and losing 400 MPs.
Well, I mean, because I think the Reform's decline is going to continue, and that's what people around Andy Burnham think. The other reason is Andy Burnham is popular at the moment. I think his popularity is more substantial than just a bounce, but the reality is it will have a shelf life, and it will have a shelf life that I think will probably peak at best for him, peak around the summer of
But if he's
year.
so great, the best thing since sliced bread, why would his popularity peak in a few months' time?
Well, because that's the nature of politics. Also,
but if he was good at the job, surely he would carry on getting more popular.
Yeah, but that's not how politics necessarily works. And also the other practical thing is there's a perception in Downing Street and within the Treasury that we're living in a kind of suspended animation at the moment because there's an economic impact that's coming down the tracks,
which we haven't really felt,
felt yet. But also, this is obviously a golden opportunity for Andy Burnham because the right at the moment are split down the middle.
Okay.
But if reforms start to decline, as people expect, and the Tories start to recover, obviously that split will start to narrow.
Going to be very interesting. Just bring you in very briefly, Philip Ingram. Do you think we're going to get a general election in 27?
I don't know. I don't know whether Andy Burnham will take the risk. The trouble is, everything he's putting out at the minute is populistness, England only. He's behaving as the mayor.
He's always going on about this.
But he's behaving as the mayor of England, not the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. Where are the measures that are having equal impact in Scotland, Northern Ireland, and Wales?
Well, where are the big issues? The welfare reform, the economic
Labour's
reform.
popularity is also going up in Scotland as well.
Yes, but Andy Burnham, he is Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. He needs to step up.
Right. I'm gonna give him the last word only because I've got to go to a break. Dan Hodges, great to have you in the studio. Look forward to reading your column on Sunday. Always a great read. 12:51, even if I'm shouting at it a lot of the time. 12:51 is the time. Up next, going to talk to former police officer Norman Brenn about the latest knife crime statistics. This is Talk.
I don't ever see either of those. I mean, that interview from 6 months ago, he said, and what the people in that country have done to me. You basically called the royal family racist. You basically slagged off this entire country, and you disappeared off, took $100 million and have grifted ever since. And now you're back here because being faintly associated with the royalty, however tarnished that might be, is going to finance you and your family's lifestyle. To me, that's hypocrisy at its worst.
Yeah, absolutely, but that's never really worried them in the past. I mean, this is just another business opportunity. Things haven't worked out in the States.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
A very good afternoon. I'm so sorry we're so late to this. 12:54 is the time. Norman Brennan, former police officer, waiting on the line. Norman, thank you so much for joining us. Apologies we've got such a short time.
Yeah, good afternoon, good morning even.
No one knows. No, is it because it's August? Everyone's just been sleeping because we've had a bit of cooler weather and no one knows what time of day it is. Look, we've got the story today about prisons running out of space. Despite early releases, we've also got the latest knife crime statistics. Talk to me about prisons there, because this prison's running out of spaces, having just like a few hundred spaces left. It's been going on for years now.
Well, it isn't. It's the neglect of 30 years of failing to build new prisons, failing to give the sentences that people that commit crime and break society's laws has taken. And the long and the short is, Julia, is that if somebody commits a serious crime or a persistent offence where they're given all alternatives other than imprisonment, from caution right up to suspended sentence, we've got the right people in prison. So how can we have too many people in prison when the right people are in there? And these are the types of people that society need protecting from. And for them to be released after already a short sentence, and let me tell you, in 50 years of law and order, I've never seen such short sentences given for serious and persistent offenders. It's almost like a short respite before they get back out. Yeah. And it's a bit like saying to a householder, a burglar's going to come into your house, pretty much like the new 9-page leaflet for asylum seekers or illegal migrants, as they are, is that I know you're going to burgle my place, but please don't take any property. And when it comes down to what you discussed, and I know we're short of time for this 9-page leaflet, why haven't the government put out lock up your wives and daughters along with their 9-page document they've given a legal...
Well, that's the thing. I mean, surely the answer is that women just aren't available on the streets to be pestered. And the actual argument in a lot of these countries is that men cannot control their behaviour around women, which is why women must worship separately and why women must be covered up, hair, face, whatever, bodies, because men cannot control themselves. And so a woman who's out and about on her own without a male guardian, or a woman who is not fully covered up, well, she's fair game. I mean, that's literally the argument. And the answer to that is women are going to have to adjust how they behave in this country, and that is unacceptable. But going back to prison thing, I mean, this is it. We have one of the reasons why we've got more people in prison is because we've had longer prison sentences for some of the more serious crimes. But as you say, we've also seen a lot of shockingly short prison sentences for what most of us would consider serious crimes. We had a man only this week who wasn't sentenced to prison, well, last week I think, wasn't sentenced to prison because he was only going to have a serve a year, and therefore one of these rules, the new sentencing rules, he wouldn't go to prison at all. The judge was saying, I don't want to do this, but I've got no choice, despite having hundreds of the worst Category A pictures of images of child sex abuse. You're talking about people with pictures of raping toddlers and babies at that point. I mean, absolutely shocking that man is not behind bars. And I don't care what his tag is, I want that man behind bars. It's simple as that. But we keep saying we're running out of space, but again, there's a really obvious solution. We just build more prisons.
Well, the thing is that it doesn't matter the financial cost of the protection of a society.
It's cheaper than not protecting.
And I know we're short of time. The purpose of prison are for these reasons: to punish the offender, to deter that person and other offenders, to reassure the public and victims of crime and rehabilitation.
Yep.
And in my expertise in law and order and policing in Britain of decades, I've never seen the criminal justice system so broken. And
I couldn't agree with you more. Listen, as you know, we've got about 30 seconds. We've got falling crime volumes, amazing. The Office for National Statistics, they're saying knife-enabled crimes across England and Wales for the year ending in March, seen an 8% drop. We're seeing homicides involving a knife falling 26%. Is this a good news story?
Well, many crimes are not reported.